Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 781. Stand side by side with the sun. Chapter 781. Stand side by side with the sun. In that instant, the entire world came to a standstill. The audiences who were seated around Lin Fan watched this nonsense-spouting fellow with their jaws dropping apart. Without any hesitation, they fled as quickly as they could to get as far as possible away from him. Hurry up and run, that guy doesn't want his life anymore. Don't get implicated. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. In a mere second, there was no one left around Lin Fan other than the 14 sand bandits. Everyone was watching that man with their jaws wide open. Who in the world is he? Why would he dare to say something like that? I've got no idea, but I think his brain must be rusty. The dueling female empress is no kind soul. Her methods are extremely cruel. Lin Fan stood there, hands behind his back and his head slightly tilted. He looked at everything in the distance with a sharp gaze. PSHEW. 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 Zhang Ergo and the others on the seats bolted straight upright as though they had just witnessed something unbelievable. As though there was a heavy chain tied to their feet, they dragged their legs towards Lin Fan one step at a time. Indeed, I've learned something new today. With no one to look after you guys, your wings have gotten real firm indeed. Lin Fan called out in a cold tone. Even though his voice wasn't loud, it was like a cold breeze, causing the hearts of Zhang Ergo and the others to freeze up entirely. It can't be, right? All the powerful beings of the Saint Devil sect and dueling sect have all stood up. Are they thinking of striking him together? Why would this young man say something as such? Is he courting death or something? Some of the elders from the other sects looked at this figure in the distance in bewilderment, not knowing who in the world he was. Kukaku, Chicky, who was seated on the chair comfortably, bolted upright as well when he heard that sentence. Using those glassy eyes of his, he looked over into the distance. Immediately, his wings fluttered as he bolted over. There were even tears that were flowing out of those wide-opened eyes of his, as though he had just been overwhelmed with emotions. When Lin Fan caught sight of Chicky who was bolting over, his heart was filled with nostalgia as well. However, Lin Fan felt that he ought to maintain that stern outlook at this moment. Otherwise, they might really think that this issue would blow over just like that. Peok, Chicky bolted over from the distance. He was practically reaching Lin Fan's embrace when he was slapped down to the ground by Lin Fan. Lin Fan did not use any strength at all. Otherwise, given the cultivation state of Chicky, he would definitely explode with just that single slap. At this moment, those perverted three sons of Chicky fluttered over in a ruckus as they crowded and defended around Chicky. Chicken Big, who was wearing gold and silver all over himself, naturally felt all his chicken hair standing at the sight of his chicken daddy being walloped. He cried out angrily. The metal accessories on his body even gave off clanking sounds from knocking into one another. The non-mainstream hipster chicken too, who was sporting those fabulous colors on his chicken body, swung his tail left and right. Using his beak, he pecked furiously at Lin Fan's toes. However, given Lin Fan's physical body state, Chicken 2 was the one that was feeling an unbearable pain by doing this. That extremely fat chicken fat cried out loudly, and the big piece of meat in his mouth dropped onto the ground. He then bent down and picked that piece of meat back with his beak. Following which, he slammed against Lin Fan's body with that rotund body of his, as though he wanted to fight Lin Fan with his life. Kukik-ku. Chicky hurriedly picked himself up from the ground. Using a single slap of his wings, he whacked all three of his chicken sons to the side and looked at Lin Fan with those pitiful and bright eyes of his. He cried out softly a couple of times before spreading his wings and hugging Lin Fan's legs. When his head touched Lin Fan's leg, he rubbed at it over and over again, as though he had truly missed this feeling. All of the surrounding audiences were completely flabbergasted by this development. That can't be, right? That's the extremely ferocious godly guardian beast of the dueling sect. To think that the man would slap it away just like that. And what in the world is going on here? To think that the horrifying godly guardian beast isn't angry, but is hugging that guy's legs instead. I must be dreaming, right? If not, who in the world is that guy? Looking at the way Chicky was, Lin Fan could not act on any longer as he picked him up with one hand. Alright, you roast chicken. Yours truly has only been gone for a while now, haven't I? And yet, you really know how to enjoy yourself, To think that you would act first and report later to produce 3 little chicklings here. You had better not tell yours truly that these 3 sons of yours are all born from normal chickens. Lin Fan knew that Chicky was never a picky eater. As long as it were a hen, he could bear to do it. And furthermore, he had a particular fetish for domestic fowls. And as for these 3 little chicklings, even though their bloodlines were strong, it was extremely mixed up, as though their mothers didn't come from any strong and noble bloodlines at all. What, it truly is. Chicky, who was held in Lin Fan's hand, nodded his head quietly as though he was silently acknowledging Lin Fan's words. Lin Fan shut his eyes gently, as though he was despairing. Indeed, when he wasn't around, this Chicky couldn't control himself at all. Lin Fan did not even know what to say any longer. Chicky was the descendant that was derived from 2 of the old ancient beasts. And now when it came to his generation, he gave birth to 3 little mixed-bred descendants. If Chicky's father were to find out about this, wouldn't he chop Chicky up? Lin Fan let go of Chicky. Immediately, Chicky fluttered his wings and leapt onto Lin Fan's shoulder. To Chicky, this shoulder of Lin Fan was his proprietary. No one should even dream of snatching this spot away from him. Master. When Zhang Ergo and the others came before Lin Fan, they prostrated on the spot and yelled out emotionally. Seeing the return of their master was naturally something that stirred up a myriad of emotions in their hearts. But for the surrounding audiences, this single scene was blowing their minds apart. What are they doing? Am I hearing things? Did they just call that young man their master? That. Everyone was absolutely dumbstruck. The Juling sect and the Cyan Devil sect were incomparably strong. Which one of their elders weren't terrifying existences? But to think that this group of powerful beings would actually call a young man their master. Wasn't this way too astounding? Ergo, Lin Fan wasn't truly angry. However, he did feel a little pissed in his heart. Yes, master, Ergo is here. Zhang Ergo, who had always been authoritative to outsiders, was extremely wretched and was cowering right now. After all these years, Zhang Ergo had long spread his name far and wide. For anyone of the outside world, while they felt that the name Zhang Ergo was pretty crude, it did leave them extremely fearful. But, the sight of this powerful being retracting that domineering aura of his and taking on a cowering position had them unable to come to terms with it. As for Zhang Ergo, hiding his true self was really way too miserable of a life. Now that his master who had been gone for 5 years had finally returned, Zhang Ergo truly wanted to get back to his true self. When Lin Fan looked at this wretched state of Zhang Ergo, he had a slight headache as well. How had he not changed after all these years? For Zhang Ergo, his life had already changed the very day he was taken a liking by his master. At times, Zhang Ergo would sigh when he thought carefully about this life of his. This was some FC King unbelievable miracle, to be honest. Right before I left, what did I tell you? Lin Fan asked. Zhang Ergo was stunned. He then lowered his head embarrassedly. Master, you told me that after you leave, I must lead everyone together and stay united. We must love and take care of one another till you return. These were words that Zhang Ergo had always remembered. But looking at the situation right now, it didn't seem the same as what he had promised. Oh, you still remember them. But the situation right now doesn't seem all that right, Or, do you mean to tell me I came back at the wrong time? Lin Fan asked skeptically. Master, I'm in the wrong. Zhang Ergo lowered his head and said in a soft voice. In front of Lin Fan, he was like a small boy waiting to be lectured by his parent for some wrongdoings. Okay, it's good that you know you're in the wrong. Looking at Ergo behaving as such, Lin Fan did not continue. When Zhang Ergo heard that his master had forgiven him, his face turned cheeky once more. He then continued saying softly, but actually, you can't blame this entirely on me, master. You know, master, you love these 2 junior sisters so dearly. As the big senior brother, how would I dare to interfere with them? So. Zhang Ergo looked at Lin Fan and blinked his eyes furiously, not daring to continue. Dog boy, you've changed. You're trying to say that your master here is in the wrong indirectly? Lin Fan asked. And no, master, Ergo definitely does not have those intentions. Even though that was the fact, in order to not have his master continue berating him, Ergo could only go against his heart and explain hurriedly. You're really way too dishonest. When we get back, you're going to be in for it. But for now, we'll leave it be first. Lin Fan shook his head helplessly. He then looked over at his two disciples. Why, the moment you guys see that your master is back, you're still standing there foolishly. Why, you want to continue scolding your master. Seeing the crazy changes of these two disciples of his, Lin Fan was truly unable to come back to his senses for a moment or so. A young woman was indeed really different from the little girl she once was. If he were to delay his return by another few years, wouldn't these guys even fly up into the sky to stand side by side with the sun? Chapter 782, No. Chapter 782, No. Master. The faces of those incomparably domineering and cold female empresses were like a small kid at this moment. They lowered their heads and pinched their fingers together. It seemed as though they had done something bad right now. Everyone who was watching rubbed their eyes, unable to believe this scene right now. To think that those high and cold female empresses would give off such an expression right now. This was really quite the eye-opener. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. What are you both still waiting there for? Lin Fan chuckled. The faces of Zhichao and Juling lit up. Master. The two girls looked at one another in the eye as a competitive glint flashed through their gazes. Instantly, the both of them started sprinting, as though they were competing to see who could get to their master the fastest. Master. Zhichao missed you. Zhichao pounced straight into Lin Fan's embrace. Master. Juling missed you too. Lin Fan fondled the both of their heads as he let out a hardened smile. This was the type of life that could be considered carefree. Holy FCK. To think that that young man would be the master of those two great female empresses. That can't be right. Those two great female empresses are already so strong, and yet this master of theirs is so young. How strong must he be then? Some of the elders of the major sects who were of the older generation finally came to a realization of what was going on. Immediately, their faces were astounded. They had discovered one hell of a huge news. That man is back. They knew of what had happened to Xuanwang world in the past. If not for that man, they might have long gone extinct. And your master misses you both too. To think that you girls would have grown this much in just 5 years. In the past, Lin Fan had never ever thought of taking in disciples. But, who knew that things would fall into place with fate and affinity? He then took the both of them in, and in the blink of an eye, these two little girls had grown this much. All of the promising young men at the audience seats looked at Lin Fan with a face of emotions. A master was akin to a father. And if they could take down the female empresses, this man would be their father-in-law. At this moment, all of those promising young men were thinking of ways to curry favor with Lin Fan. If they could make him happy and he would somehow betroth his disciple to them, wouldn't that be one hell of a merry event? How have the past few years been? Have you guys suffered? Lin Fan asked in a gentle tone. Master, junior sister had been bullying me all this while. Zhichao glared at Yu Juling. She no longer had the disposition of a female empress as she complained out. Master, senior sister is the one who was bullying me. She's fighting with me over everything. Unable to take this lying down, Yu Juling refuted immediately. HMPH. The both of them then glared at one another angrily. Oh, is that so? That's right, master. Junior sister has been really naughty. I've endured so much anger in the past few years. Zhichao said. Master, senior sister is lying. I am the one who was bullied the worst. Master, you must believe me. The both of them tugged at Lin Fan's arms and blamed the other. Lin Fan nodded his head silently as though he was hearing the both of them out. Ergo, get me 2 stools. Lin Fan called out calmly. Yes, master. Without thinking twice, Ergo hurriedly ran off to look for stools. Master, I knew it. You're the best to me. You know that your disciple, I'm tired. Zhichao was ever so dependent on Lin Fan. Even now that she had grown up, she still loved acting coquettishly in front of Lin Fan like the little girl she was. Initially, when she was the only disciple under her master, Zhichao felt herself being filled with love. Later on, she gained a junior sister somehow. That caused her to feel as though the love given to her by her master had been divided by 2. Master, I like you the most too. Yu Juling added on. Yes, that's right, it's been tiring. Lin Fan's face was unchanged. His tone also seemed to be implying something. None of the surrounding audiences left at all. At this moment, all of them wanted to know what would happen next. Master, I've brought the stools. Ergo carried one in each hand and hurried over in a huff. In Ergo's eyes, he just had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Just place them here, Lin Fan replied calmly. Ergo shrugged his head, not knowing what his master wanted to do. He then looked over at his both junior sisters. At this point, they could only depend on their own lucky stars now. Master, I've just had a big fight with junior sister. I'm feeling so tired now. Zhichao sat down. However, she refused to let go of Lin Fan still. Master, you sit with me too. Master, you sit with me. At this moment, both of them started arguing once more. Looking at the both of them, Lin Fan spoke up, all right now. These stools aren't for you girls to sit. The both of you, choose one each and lie on your stomachs. Ah, Zhichao and Yu Juling were stunned, somewhat in disbelief. For a moment or so, they were lost in a blank daze, unable to snap out of it. At this moment, Zhang Ergo and the others realized what was going on. Things were far from over just yet. Hurry up and sprawl over, Lin Fan said with a calm and peaceful tone as he smiled brightly on his face. Master, what are you trying to do? The both of them were dumbfounded right now. Those peerlessly beautiful faces of theirs flashed with a pitiful look in their eyes. And the both of you actually dare to ask your master what I'm trying to do? Now, if your master hadn't returned in time, wouldn't you two have even blown an entire hole out of the heavens? Alright, hurry up now. You wouldn't want your master to get angry, right? Lin Fan added on. Master, hurry up. Zhichao and Yu Juling sprawled over the stools in a pitiful manner. At that moment, the teacher's ruler that Lin Fan had not used for a long time now made its grand appearance back into the world once more. When the two disciples caught sight of that teacher's ruler, their faces were pale as a sheet. If I don't give you guys something to remember for this time, you're really going to get out of hand in the future. Lin Fan held the teacher's ruler in his hands as he said this. The surrounded audiences were stunned at this very moment. They were already flabbergasted at the very moment those two female empresses were sprawled on the stools. But, what was he trying to do? At the start, they did not get it. But when they saw the teacher's ruler in the hands of that young man, they understood instantly. Holy FCK, isn't this way too much excitement for the heart? Hearing the commotion coming from the crowd, Zhichao and Yu Juling turned their heads towards their master in a flush. Master, could you wait till we get back before you spank us? Out in the world, both I and junior sister are female empresses. If these many people were to catch sight of this, we would definitely be a laughingstock in the future. That's right, our dear good master. Please, I'm begging you. I know that I'm in the wrong now. I'll never dare to do it again. Yu Juling cried out. If anyone else were to do this, they would have long been blown apart to death by these two. But the person right now was their master. Even if they ate up 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to do anything still. HMPH, you wouldn't dare to anymore. I've spent a long time watching from below the arena just now. The both of you were really ferocious, weren't you? Even more so than your master here. And, you know how to set up your own sex and all now, And you think that's not getting out of hand? Lin Fan replied. Both of them looked extremely pitiful right now. The overbearing disposition had long evaporated into thin air as those two sparkly eyes looked at Lin Fan with a pleading look. They then looked around at their senior brothers. Their intention was clear, please help us, senior brothers. Master, I swear to the heavens that as long as you don't spank me in front of all of these people, I would definitely be obedient from now on and not act insolently ever again. That's right, master, I'll swear to the heavens as well. And swearing would be worth as much as a fart. Even the heavens here belong to your master. And yet, you had even dared to scold your master here, let alone talk about swearing. Lin Fan replied. Zhang Ergo had been standing at the sidelines for his own safety the entire time. But when he caught sight of those begging gazes of his junior sisters, he could not help but relent. Master, how about we move the discipline after we head back? Look, there are so many people here along with all the major sects. If news of this were to spread out, it would damage your reputation as well. That's right, master, I think that big senior brother is right. Let's discipline them after we head back. Feng Buju added on. While the two junior sisters may have done quite a number of wrongdoings, as the saying goes, one shouldn't dry their dirty linens in public. I think it's better if we head back first. Even Mie Chongqi had managed to come up with some fart **s reason. The three sons of Chicky hugged at Lin Fan's legs as well, looking at him pitifully. Fat chicken, your meat has dropped. Lin Fan looked down at his feet saying. Chicken Fat, who had been hugging at Lin Fan's legs, realized that his beak was empty once more. He turned down and saw that his meat had dropped to the ground yet again, and immediately picked it back up. He then resumed the hugging of Lin Fan's leg with a really pitiful look on his face. Forget it. Since your senior brothers are begging for mercy for you guys, we'll settle this when we get back then. Get up then, Lin Fan said. Master is the best. Zhi Chao is so touched. Zhi Chao rubbed the sides of her eyes and cried out emotionally. Lin Fan rolled his eyes, then produced a ribbon out of thin air. Master, what are you doing? Zhi Chao and Juling were bewildered. Right now, your master is going to tie your arms together. Without the approval of your master here, none of you are to release this. Otherwise, you ought to understand the consequences. Ah, master, what about when we sleep, bathe, and require to go to the washroom? What should we do? The both of them exclaimed. Everything must be done together. Lin Fan replied. Ah, no, HMPH, time to leave. Lin Fan swept his robes and instantly brought everyone with him out of here. In the blink of an eye, Lin Fan and the others disappeared without a trace. Master, what about our sects? What should we do with them? Disband. As for everyone else that remained at the scene, they were left completely dumbfounded for a moment or two, not knowing what to make out of everything. Chapter 783. Where's the promised touching scene? Chapter 783. Where's the promised touching scene? Right now, within the Xuanwang world, the Xuanjian sect was an existence not to be reckoned with. In the past 5 years, there had been sects who did not know what was good for them and tried bullying Xuanjian sect, thinking that they were an all-female sect. However, those sects ended up disappearing mysteriously. It was as though they had never existed. Later on, there were people who discovered some of the grand masters and elders of these sects in some mines, working hard at mining with a face full of dust. After probing further, they found out that these guys were captured here to work hard as coolies. Ever since then, everyone knew that the Xuanjian sect was far from simple. But of course, the people in the loop naturally knew that the Xuanjian sect was far from simple. The current Grand Master of the Xuanjian sect was Lin Fan's wife. And who was Lin Fan? He was the sickest existence in the entire Xuanwang world. All of the disciples under him were sick to the extreme. And not only that, Glory sect and Jushao sect had an extraordinary relationship with that man. Therefore, if one wanted to lay their hands on Xuanjian sect, that would depend on whether they had the capabilities to do so. The Xuanjian sect of today was one that was flourishing with grandeur. The disciples under them amounted to tens of dozens, and they could be considered as one of the major sects as well. Suddenly, the void trembled and a figure appeared from within. Who's there? The face of the Xuanjian sect disciple who was keeping a watch turned stern as she went on high alert. To think that these people would arrive at Xuanjian sect without informing beforehand. Were they enemies here to intrude? The Xuanjian sect right now was different from the past. All the disciples under them were extremely proud of their sect. Lin Fan brought everyone with him and stood there calmly, asking, "Where is your Grand Master?" Right now, Lin Fan was feeling a little emotional. He was finally going to see his wife. This separation had kept them apart for 5 years. The thought of him having to leave this wife of his to an empty bed had Lin Fan feeling a little guilty. However, at this moment, the disciple who was keeping guard rang the alarm signals. She had realized that there was a big group of people who were here. And not only that, their auras were really formidable. Ring ring ring. All of a sudden, disciples gushed forth from all directions. One of the female disciples leading the way wielded a longsword in her hands with an exceptional disposition. In fact, compared to his own disciples, she didn't seem that far off either. Big senior sister. Big senior sister. The moment everyone from Xuanjian sect caught sight of who it was, they greeted her respectfully. Who are you guys? Why have you arrived at Xuanjian sect? This girl was only 16 years old. Hence, she brought with her a look of cautiousness. Junior sister Qian Ying, do not worry. At this moment, Zhang Ergo stood out. Senior brother Ergo. The moment Qian Ying saw that it was Zhang Ergo, her heart heaved a sigh of relief and let down her guard. Senior brother Ergo, is there any reason for your visit this time around? Zhang Ergo had come over to Xuanjian sect a couple of times. And each time he came was to stand up for Xuanjian sect. As such, some of the disciples of the Xuanjian sect naturally knew him. Is Yunxian around? Lin Fan asked straight away. The moment Qian Ying heard this, her face turned frosty cold. Who are you? The name of the Grand Master is not someone you can call just like. But before she was even finished with her words, Qian Ying suddenly realized that her mouth was covered up by Zhang Ergo. Master, this is my junior sister Qian Ying, the direct disciple of our matriarch. She doesn't know of you yet. Zhang Ergo explained hurriedly. Initially, Qian Ying was a little miffed over Zhang Ergu's actions. However, her face suddenly changed as she observed Lin Fan from head to toe properly. As the direct disciple of Zan Yongxian, she naturally knew that her master had a husband. Not only that, he wasn't in this place anymore. From time to time, she would always see her master looking at an item and thinking about someone. This single thought would take up an entire day of hers at times. Oh, Yongxian's direct disciple, not too bad indeed. Lin Fan had not expected that Zan Yongxian would look for a direct disciple of her own. Why you are, Grandmaster Lin, Qian Ying asked in astonishment. Lin Fan nodded his head while grinning. Master. Instantly, Qian Ying turned into a streak of light and bolted off to the yard behind her. She was extremely excited right now. When Lin Fan looked at the long streak of light in the distance, he let out a wide smile while looking around the entire place with anticipation. Theoretically, by this time, the first one to appear should be that cheap son of his. But where was that boy right now? Some of the disciples of the Xuanjian sect started breaking out in whispers when they looked at Lin Fan. Who is that man? Why is he calling the name of our Grand Master so intimately? I've got no idea. How about asking our senior sisters? Some of the disciples who did not know of Lin Fan's background asked their senior sisters around them secretively. But they realized that all of their senior sisters were looking exceptionally excited right now. Senior sisters, who is he? Those excited senior sisters seemed as though they had many things they wanted to say. That's the most powerful being in the entire Xuanwang world. He's the husband of our Grand Master. The Grand Master had been thinking about him day and night. Finally, she does not have to reminisce over him through an object any longer. Ah, the husband of our Grand Master. In the backyard. Master. Qian Ying's figure shifted extremely quickly as though she had just used all of her energy. Yinger, what's wrong? Why are you so frantic? Within a pavilion, a figure with an exceptional grace looked extremely ravishing and breathtaking. Every single action she took was as beautiful as a painting itself. Master, he's back, Qian Ying cried out emotionally. For a moment or two, she couldn't even find the words to say any longer. Who's back? Talk properly. You're going to be the Grand Master in the future. What are you acting so anxiously about? It had been a long time since Zan Yongxian had seen this disciple of hers getting so worked up. Hence, she was pretty curious as well. Lin. All of a sudden, Zan Yongxian's body jerked intensely. She raised those exquisite features of hers and looked into a distance. In the blink of an eye, a cool breeze gusted by and there was nothing left of Zan Yongxian's entirely. Fan. Master, where are you? Qian Ying had just finished her words to find out that her master had disappeared entirely. Lin Fan stood there grinning happily. He had already sensed that familiar aura. A breeze blew by, and a figure appeared before Lin Fan. The two of them looked at one another in the eye. At that moment, the entire world seemed to have gone entirely silent. A touching scene is about to happen. Looking at the scene before her, Zhichao could not help but wipe the side of her eye. Even though there hadn't been a single sentence exchanged between her master and her matriarch, he knew that a single gaze held a million emotions within them. All the disciples of the Xuanjian sect held their breaths. They could sense the atmosphere filling up with warmth right now. They knew that after 5 years of not seeing one another, there was naturally much to be said to one another. For all of them, even though they did not have such experiences personally, the scene right now still left them feeling somewhat envious. Zan Yongxian looked at Lin Fan. That familiar face. This was the man she had been thinking of day and night, and was now standing before her once more. Her eyes could not help but redden. Zan Yongxian had many things she wanted to say to him. However, at that moment, she did not know how to start at all. Husband. That single word of Zan Yongxian bore with it all her thoughts and emotions. It was 5 years' worth of pining for him that were encompassed within that single word, husband. Lin Fan stepped forth. Because of that single step of Lin Fan, all the hearts of the disciples who were watching started palpitating furiously. They knew that the touching scene was about to happen. November LBJNN. Wife. Lin Fan came before Zan Yongxian's face. Wrapping his shoulder around her, he bolted off into the backyard. Ah, husband, hurry and let me down. All the disciples are watching. What are you afraid of? Let them watch if they want to. Let us find a nice and secret place to talk things out real good. Lin Fan laughed out loudly. Zan Yongxian, who was being supported by Lin Fan's shoulders, felt her face turning red and blushing. Where's the promised touching scene? At this moment, all of the masses present could only gape at the scene before them. What just happened left them totally unprepared for it. Chapter 784. Anxious to death. Chapter 784. Anxious to death. Senior brother, what should we do? Yu Juling and Zhao, who were being tied together right now, asked in a stumped manner. Well, it's been a long time since we last visited Xuanjian sect. I guess we'll just wander around on our own. Let's separate for now. Zhang Ergo sighed out. Senior brother Zhang, junior sister here has learned a new skill recently. I would like your opinion on it. Qian Ying requested. Sure, no problem. Naturally, there wouldn't be any issues, as Zhang Ergo was all smiles right now. I'll take a look around as well then I guess. The scenery around Xuanjian sect is pretty decent. Tian Yu, Feng Buju, and Mie Chongqi then went on their separate ways, looking for places they wanted to see. As for the 14 sand bandits, they looked at one another in bewilderment. The blows they received today were quite huge, And now that their boss had carried his wife off, what were they to do? No, they had to act like they were experienced folks, and definitely not show that they were at a loss right now. The 14 sand bandits then left on their own, and the surrounding disciples dispersed as well. Eventually, only Zhao and Yu Juling were left. Snap, what are you doing? I want to go this way. The both of them wanted to head their own ways. However, because they were tied up together, none of them could budge an inch. No, why should I listen to you? I want to head this way. Hugh, we'll see who is stronger then. Come on then, who's afraid of whom? Zhao and Yu Juling stood where they were and started tugging against one another. The rear court had long been emptied out. Within a house. Returning only after 5 years, don't you have anything you wish to say to me? Within the house came a serene voice of Zan Yongxian that hinted at a slight displeasure. Everything shall be said through actions. My dear wifey, did you miss me? Yes, I've missed you. I've missed you too. Fumble, fumble, fumble. Wifey, why can't I undress this? Time passed by the seconds and minutes as a hurried voice of Lin Fan came out from the house. That's not the way you undress it. Come, I'll do it. It's all right. That's too troublesome. Isn't it just a piece of clothing? Does it think that it can stop me? Shred, see, it's all undressed now. How speedy as well. Gosh, slow down. There's no hurry anyways. I really feel like hugging you properly. Yongxian continued. Wifey, I'm not the one hurrying. There's someone else down here that's anxiously waiting. This heart of mine is even going to pop out soon. Lin Fan sniggered despicably. Wifey, your skin, it's gotten ever fairer, ever smoother, ever more tender. So itchy. Yongxian started squirming over being touched. He, let your hubby give you a massage then. This will definitely bring in some magical effects. Don't massage there, It's already big enough. Zan Yongxian's shy voice whispered out. It's alright, I don't mind if it gets bigger. Be it round or perky, it'll all look so nice. Peok, 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 mmmmmmhmmmmmm. A few light gasps and moans permeated out of the house. To think that such things would happen under broad daylight. Such a shameful scene. Hubby, how's the upper world? Is it dangerous? It's still alright. I guess the battles there are almost as intense as the battle we're having now. However, I can still endure it. This was a really accurate analogy used by Lin Fan. This position is really shameful. Kneeling here has my body feeling all cold. No, don't worry, your hubby will warm you up. That's right, spread them further, a little bit further. Yes, that's really good. Yongxian, your butt is really beautiful. It's so round and perky. Hubby, don't say those things anymore. I'm about to die from embarrassment. Don't worry, we've been married for such a long time now. Things that are beautiful should naturally be praised. N-O-V-E in .c om. Hubby, yes, Yongxian has realized that your tongue is getting sweeter than ever. Is it because up in the upper world, you have another? Wifey, are you hoping that my answer is that I have one more or not? Ouch, 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 stop squeezing, stop tightening. No, definitely not. Ah, that's more comfortable. An intense battle broke out through the entire place like a whirlwind, ripping through every single corner. Wherever the whirlwind passed, everything would be left in a mess. A series of indecent sounds rang out from within the house, filling up the entire rear court. However, there was no one else in the rear court right now. Because of that, there were, thankfully, no victims born as a result of this. Night time. It was time for dinner. Zhao and Juling looked at the food before them. One of them held the chopsticks in her left hand while the other in her right hand. Juling happened to be the one with her right hand free to use the chopsticks. Therefore, she was enjoying when she placed every single piece of delicacy in her mouth. As for Zhichao, she was having a tough time holding the chopsticks in a weird manner. She picked up a piece of meat and wanted to put it in her mouth. Next thing she knew, it dropped down. "Feed me." Looking at how much Juling was enjoying the food, Zhichao blurted out. "Don't you have hands?" Juling replied curtly. "How am I to eat with my left hand?" Zhichao added on. Juling looked at Zhichao. She then picked up some food and placed it in Zhichao's mouth. "I want to eat that. I want to eat that too. I want to drink soup." Zhichao looked at Juling. She then took up a spoon with her left hand and took it to Juling's mouth. Both Zhichao and Juling were having a huge headache over this ribbon. However, because it was on their master's orders, there was no way they could possibly disobey. Neither of them would want to sleep with the other in the same room if given a choice. But now, they had no other way but to sleep right beside one another. Even when they had to bathe or use the washroom, they had to do it together. This was something they were both not used to. Rear court, Lin Fan hugged Zhan Yongxian in his embrace, telling her about the tales of what happened up in the upper world. Zhan Yongxian's heart was grinding with anxiousness. Each time the story got to a dangerous portion, she would look at Lin Fan with undulating worries. One of them spoke slowly while the other listened intently. Zhan Yongxian had not expected that her hubby would meet with this much dangers. And even at times, those were situations where he barely scraped out of death. And of course, Lin Fan naturally did not tell her about him being ravaged by the Firewater Emperor. After all, wouldn't he be one hell of a fool to tell that out? "Hubby, now that you've returned, are you intending to head back again?" Zhan Yongxian asked while caressing Lin Fan's face gently. "Of course, I will head back. There's unfinished business over there," Lin Fan replied. "Does that mean that we'll have to separate once more? Yongxian cannot bear to part with you," Zhan Yongxian continued. "Don't worry, now that I've returned this time around, I intend to bring you guys up with me." Lin Fan had already formed a plan in his mind. While it was important for one to possess fortitude and strength, the power of one was really way too puny when it came to going up against the ancient race. The only way they could kill all the ancient race beings was through uniting all of the available strength. There were many geniuses in the Xuanwang world. And at the same time, Lin Fan had already laid down his plan. Even though there wouldn't be any foreseeable effects in the short term, Lin Fan believed that it shouldn't be long before a group of talents would emerge. As long as we're not separated, Yongxian would be contented. The Zhan Yongxian right now was in no way seeming like a grandmaster. She was just a little girl in the hands of Lin Fan. Yes, don't worry. At times, Lin Fan would ponder about the wonders of life as well. To think that even someone like him would be able to find a wife with that personality. "Alright, you must be tired now. Take an early rest first. Tomorrow, I wish to head back to Glory Sect." Lin Fan chuckled out. Zhan Yongxian's face flushed red as she thought about how wild they were during the daytime. However, she could not bear to imagine that she could have done actions as lewd as such. What was she to do if the disciples were to catch wind of it? However, for Zhan Yongxian, none of that mattered much. Chapter 785. Return to Glory Sect once more. Chapter 785. Return to Glory Sect once more. The next day, Lin Fan settled down his wife for a bit. Now that he was back in the Xuanwang world, there were quite a number of issues he had to settle. Yongxian naturally understood that her husband had important matters to deal with as well. Therefore, she did not try to restrict him. There was going to be a long time ahead for them to spend more time together and build their relationship. At the pavilion area, Lin Fan stood there alone, thoughts swimming through his mind as he contemplated about the plan from here on forth. He knew that once the infinite worlds were to open up, that would be the time when all hell would break loose. All the hidden powerful beings from all the different worlds might appear once more. Throughout his path of cultivation, he had met quite a number of powerful beings. However, compared to the entire thousands of worlds and his adventures in the ancient saint world, he was probably just at the tip of the icebergs. How vast were the thousands of worlds out there? If there were only this few powerful beings, what in the world could they do at all? Lin Fan knew that once that moment arrived, it would be the start of a muddled war. If he wanted to protect all those that he held dear before the opening of the infinite worlds, he could only work hard at improving his own strength by then. Master, Zhichao and Zhoulong headed over briskly. Neither of them had a good night's rest last night. Now that they were tied together, nothing they did was convenient. Even resting didn't feel all that good either. "Master, your disciples know that we were in the wrong. Could you please release us? Both of them asked pitifully. A single day was enough to have them feeling so terrible. Wouldn't it kill them if this were to drag on any longer? This is a trial that I have to give you guys as your master. Lin Fan naturally would not release them from this. Because he left when they were young, he did not impart proper teachings to them. If both of them were unable to come to terms with one another, wouldn't it be one hell of a ruckus in the future? That's that now. Your master has issues to handle. Without lingering, Lin Fan burst off and disappeared from the spot immediately. Zhe Chao and Juling pursed their lips and twitched their toes. This was a form of torture for them. However, they wouldn't dare to defy the will of their master. They then looked at one another, and could not help but let out a stifled snort. By now, Glory Sect was already the #1 sect in the entire Xuanwang world. Be it in the past or present, they were still the major sect they were, if not bigger. They were an existence which countless of sects would revere and model after. At this moment far in the void, Lin Fan looked over. There was a blurry-looking statue he could see from where he was. But, Lin Fan knew that it was his tribute sculpture. Thinking back about this tribute sculpture, Lin Fan could not help but chuckle out. This was something that the sect had created for him after he had put on a good show. The Glory Sect lives up to its name indeed with a fortune like that of the dragons. Just a sect alone, and yet they have taken up almost 20% of the entire Xuanwang world's fortune. Now that Lin Fan had cultivated to this extent, he was naturally extremely familiar with the concept of fortune. At the same time, since the heavens will belong to Lin Fan, it was naturally extremely simple for him to check on one's fortunes. Glory Sect had occupied 20% of the world's fortune. Just this fact alone would allow the sect to bloom with countless geniuses and flourish indefinitely. When Lin Fan appeared at the entrance of Glory Sect, there were countless disciples within the sect. Seeing an outsider such as Lin Fan, they were naturally curious. All of these people who could become disciples of Glory Sect were naturally extremely prideful. After all, it was no joke to be in the #1 sect of the entire Xuanwang world. Stepping on the ground of Glory Sect brought back an infinite number of memories for Lin Fan. He wondered how many people would know of him. In the past 5 years, he might have even been forgotten more or less. Suddenly, a group of disciples rounded over. Their faces were all extremely startled as though they had seen something incredible. Lin Fan was bewildered. He wondered what was up with these disciples. Why did they seem like they had just seen a ghost? All of these were outer sect disciples. But, when they first entered the sect, the first rule of everything they must know about Glory Sect involved Lin Fan. Any disciple who wished to get into Glory Sect would first have to stand before the tribute sculpture for an entire day and night without making a single sound. If so much as a peep were to be heard from them, they would be disqualified immediately. As for these disciples, they would always pass by this tribute sculpture every day. As time passed, they would have already memorized what it looked like without even needing to actually see it. Lin Fan stood there with his hands behind him in a carefree manner. He then took a step forth and headed in. Greetings to Founder Junior Master Lin. Instantly, the loud booming sounds reverberated across the entire Glory Sect. When all of the disciples within heard this sound, they did not know what was happening. But, when they caught sight of that figure, just like the other disciples from before, they were absolutely flabbergasted. Greetings to Founder Junior Master Lin. Lin Fan had not expected that even after leaving for 5 years, all the disciples of Glory Sect would still recognize him. This was something way too incredible for him. That's Founder Junior Master Lin. He's the top being in the entire Glory Sect. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. He looks exactly like his tribute sculpture. There's definitely no mistake about this. I've heard that Founder Junior Master Lin had ascended into the upper world. Why is he appearing in Glory Sect now? I've got no idea, but there's absolutely no mistake about this at all. Be it his disposition, expression, or face, they're all exactly the same. Hurry up and report this to the Grand Master. The elders too. However, there was something that aroused Lin Fan's curiosity. It seemed like his status within the sect had been raised once more. This was something truly mysterious. All of the genius disciples of Glory Sect stood orderly in rows to look at Lin Fan. They were all geniuses of Glory Sect. Some of them were cold, some haughty, while others tyrannical. However, at this moment, they could not help but shout out respectfully, Founder Junior Master Lin. All of a sudden, a few streaks of light bolted over from the depths of Glory Sect. That's the old master. The Grand Master's here too. The senior elders as well. Sensing the familiar auras, Lin Fan grinned out, then called out calmly, I'm back. Old Master Yan, Senior Elder Wuya, Zhang Henshin, and many other people Lin Fan was familiar with appeared before him. Lu Yan, who had a profound Buddhistic nature to him, Meng Hao, who had an unparalleled battling intent, Jian Wudi, who had an overreaching sword will emanating from him, etc. Lin Fan. Yan Hongyu's face was astonished as he let out a look of disbelief. Even that never-changing wrinkled face of Senior Elder Wuya started wrinkling up even more. Haha, why, does none of you remember me any longer? Haven't I just been gone for 5 years? Lin Fan chuckled out. Junior Master. Zhang Henshin was exceptionally emotional as he rushed forth. For the 5 years that Junior Master Lin had left, Zhang Henshin had been thinking about him all day and night. He had thought that he wouldn't be able to see his junior master for the rest of his life. To think that he would make it back 5 years later. Not bad, lad, to think that you are now the Grand Master. Looking at the attire of Zhang Henshin, Lin Fan could not help but laugh out. Hey, Zhang Henshin shrugged his head in glee. Before Lin Fan, the image of him as the Grand Master had disappeared entirely. It was as though he was still part of the bunch following behind Junior Master Lin, just like in the past. As for all the surrounding disciples, when they saw that solemn Grand Master of theirs letting out such an expression, all of them were extremely astounded. This was something they could not believe at all. As for all the disciples who had entered the sect later on, founder Junior Master Lin was someone who was told of in the legends. Within the sect, when they heard the elders and seniors of the older generation speak of the happenings in the past, they were always extremely flabbergasted. They could not believe that there could be such a mighty existence that had once existed in this world. For all of the disciples of Glory Sect, the #1 legendary character that they have always been the most curious about was none other than founder Junior Master Lin. Chapter 786. Return to the utmost being level once more. Chapter 786. Return to the utmost being level once more. Within the main hall, everyone sat in a circle, extremely curious about the happenings in Lin Fan's life after he ascended into the upper world 5 years ago, wondering how everything was like in its entirety. Was it truly as the Supreme Beings had described, where the entire place was filled with endless dangers lurking around every corner? It is, and in fact, it's even worse than how they had described. In the upper world, beings of the thousands of races led an extremely lowly life of oppression under the ancient race beings, doomed to an eternity of subjugation, without any chance of a comeback at all. Lin Fan wasn't hurried as he relayed everything he had been through in the upper world to everyone else there and said it all out. The faces of everyone present changed repeatedly. They could not believe what they were hearing. When they heard that the beings of the thousands of races were slaughtered indiscriminately and devoured by the ancient race beings, they could feel their hearts trembling in fear. They could not believe that there could be living beings as terrifying as such in this universe. With my return this time around, I'm prepared to mobilize the entire Xuanwang Word. We can only have a single strain of hope if we're united. Lin Fan said. When the infinite worlds open up, even the seal that the Supreme Being and the others have created would be useless. Eventually, a calamity will befall us. After my 5 years in the ancient saint world, I've thought things through. What the Heavenly Emperor Yuan said back then was right. Rather than hiding away and waiting for death, we might as well give it a shot. Even if we were to fail, at least we wouldn't regret it. Back then, Lin Fan had thought that Heavenly Emperor Yuan's thinking was a little extreme. However, right now, it seemed like Heavenly Emperor Yuan was the one with the greatest foresight. Since it was already a dead end, they might as well give it a shot. N-O-V-E-N.C Ohm. At this moment, everyone remained silent. It seemed as though they had been frightened by the words of Lin Fan. To them, the news that they were hearing right now was absolutely way too explosive. Even if they were to continue hiding, they couldn't hide for much longer anyway. Band together in unity. It sounds easy, but it's difficult to achieve. There are a myriad of sects established in the Xuanwang world, and plenty of powerhouses spread out. It'd be quite the task to gather them together. Yan Hongyu set out. That is indeed a difficult issue. The hearts of humans would never change. Even if it's at the most critical moments, there would be those who would take a risk out of desperation to protect their own interests. However, now that the trend is already set, if these people wanted to take advantage of the situation, the only consequence awaiting them would be death. After fighting solo for a long time, Lin Fan did feel a little tired thinking about it. If he could have a large group of people under him to fight against the ancient race, how pleasurable would that be? But, if that's truly the case, then it's necessary for us to unite together. Glory Sect is the #1 sect in the entire Xuanwang world. If we were to tell the major sects about the severity of the matter, they would most likely agree. However, the difficulty is with those evil sects, and all the powerful beings who stay under the radar. Given their positions, it would be difficult to persuade them to an agreement. The Xuanwang world had always been peaceful and calm. However, there were still plenty of forces lurking in the dark. Those are nothing much. I'll handle them. Lin Fan was extremely confident right now. Given his current strength, if he couldn't take down these guys, he would have lived his life for nothing. After discussing with the masses for a bit longer, everyone went their own way. At this moment, in a desolate ground somewhere, Lin Fan floated gently in the void and surveyed the entire place below him. Ancient One, what are you still waiting for? This desolate ground here was just like a dead zone, without any living beings at all. However, Lin Fan could sense that there was an extremely powerful being that laid down deep beneath the abyss. All of a sudden, the entire sky changed as the clouds rumbled and the earth quaked. An extremely formidable aura gushed forth from the deep abyss beneath the ground. The ground began to give way and crack out, caving in to reveal an abyss so deep one could not make out its depth. A gigantic, pitch-black palm extended out from beneath. When Lin Fan caught sight of this, he could feel his heart rattling as well. You live up to your name indeed, Ancient One. To think that you would have broken through the barrier of the Xuanwang world. Lin Fan had suddenly realized that the cultivation state of the Ancient One had surpassed the greater celestial cultivation state, and was now at the azure celestial level. This was something absolutely incredible to Lin Fan. There was no living being in the entire Xuanwang world who could break through the greater celestial cultivation state at all. But now that the Ancient One had surpassed it, it was pretty bewildering for Lin Fan. However, he did not give it too much of a thought. Master, a titanic figure stood tall between the entire world. Just by standing there, the aura that was emanated out from him was enough to bring shivers to one's heart. Ancient One, seems like you've been recovering well in the past 5 years. Lin Fan chuckled out. Master, because my body has been damaged too badly, I'm afraid it's impossible for me to return to my peak form. The Ancient One replied. The arm of the Ancient One was sacrificed by Lin Fan, resulting in his body being damaged irreparably. It was undoubtedly impossible for him to return to his peak form then. It's alright, my return this time around is to help you to return to your peak form. Lin Fan swept his robes. Instantly, the eternal seat appeared before the world. At the moment of the eternal seat's appearance, the entire world quaked from it. It was as though under this mighty aura, all living beings would quiver and bow down to it, without being able to resist at all. That's the eternal seat. At this moment, the Ancient One was excited beyond words, as though he had just seen an utmost treasure. A long howl sounded out from him as the Ancient One opened up his arms. He could sense that this eternal seat was from one of the utmost beings of the ancient race. Within the universe, there were only 8 seats. Each seat could create an utmost being. A pitch-black vortex suddenly appeared at the chest of the Ancient One. Instantly, he sucked in the eternal seat. Clang g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g g. All of a sudden, the numerous metal chains that were wrapped around the body of the Ancient One started vibrating intensely. A series of thick thunderbolts wrapped themselves around his body instead. That roar shook the entire heavens and earth as the aura of the Ancient One bolted up instantly. That initially titanic body of his began expanding once more. His power level started climbing intensely, as though there was no end to it. Crack, his skin began tearing apart, as though he was shedding it and going through a rebirth. That pitch-black skin of his instantly turned into stone before dropping off layer by layer. In its place was an extremely shiny and glimmering skin, that gave off an extremely threatening aura. My powers are back once more. At this moment, the Ancient One stood upright between the heavens and earth. Pitch-black thunderbolts crackled as they flashed ominously, while those eyes of his let out an extremely frightening glint. Rings of power started expanding out with the Ancient One as the center. Divine Celestial Level 1 state. Divine Celestial Level 2 state. Divine Celestial Level 9 state. Divine Celestial Level 10 state. Eternal God state. Boom. The Ancient One raised both of his arms and tore the heavens. PSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSS tier extended all the way from the north of the world to the south edges of the world. Arg hhhhhhhhhhhhhh. The Ancient One howled out at the top of his voice. A beam of light that shone down like waterfall rained down from the 9 heavens and bathed itself over the Ancient One's body. Eternal God Seat. Unparalleled utmost being. Bam! Lin Fan's face tensed up as his body stumbled backward as well. He had realized just how frightening the power of the Ancient One was. In fact, Lin Fan could tell that even utmost beings such as Krul might be killed with just a single punch of his. Such was the power of the old utmost beings. Upon his recovery, the foundation of the power he possessed wasn't something that was comparable to the normal utmost beings. Ha ha ha! At this moment, the Ancient One screamed out towards the heavens. That power that he had lost back then had finally returned once more. For the Ancient One, this was akin to being reborn. Master! The Ancient One half kneeled on the ground. His voice was bright and radiant as he greeted Lin Fan, producing a gruff sound. Chapter 787, Pinnacle Physical Body. Chapter 787, Pinnacle Physical Body. And right now, Lin Fan had all the cards that he needed to go up against the ancient race. Back in the past, as long as the utmost beings didn't appear, Lin Fan could FCK up any ancient race being as he wished. However, the moment an utmost being appeared, he would be FCKED so badly till he had to dodge and hide away. He could even die due to a moment of carelessness. But right now, both Krul and the Ancient One were both under Lin Fan's command. They were undoubtedly his left and right arms at this point. Even if he were to clash head-on with the ancient race, Lin Fan could finally have some reliable backing to play around with. From this day forth, yours truly will no longer have to fear utmost beings. Ever since Ancient One regained his strength, Lin Fan had been immensely happy. Not only that, his physical body state was about to reach its pinnacle status as well. A divine celestial level 10, eternal God state physical body state. Even the utmost beings would not be able to wallop him by that time. Lin Fan realized that at times, one could say that the system was pretty sick and badass. But, one couldn't say that about it at other times. However, if the right opportunity comes, he could definitely make use of its sick functions. NOVELP in .c ohm. Ancient One, whack me. Lin Fan said with excitement. Ah, the Ancient One's face changed immediately as though the fact hadn't registered in his mind yet. This was something that was way too inconceivable for the Ancient One. He did not know what his master was up to. Hurry up, start with 30% of your strength. Lin Fan ordered. Right now, his physical body state was Divine Celestial Level 9. He was still that bit away from a Divine Celestial Level 10. However, with the help of the Ancient One, this wouldn't be much of an issue. Right now, his cultivation state was Divine Celestial Level 9. He was still a bit far from Divine Celestial Level 10. In the near future, it wouldn't be possible for him to bump it up easily. However, physical body state being boosted up was the king's way for now. Yes, after that, the Ancient One punched out without any hesitation. Even though this was only 30% of his strength, to Lin Fan, this was just practically explosive. The single punch caused the entire void to start distorting. The barriers of the void in the Xuanwang world were nowhere as strong as in the ancient saint world. Hence, this amount of power caused a change so great that it was practically apocalyptic. Bam! Lin Fan took the fist head-on properly. Uck! In front of this fist, Lin Fan did not have any strength to resist at all. His body ruptured immediately and turned into a piece of bloodied meat. This is way too horrifying, isn't it? The piece of meat pulsated and began to regroup. However, Lin Fan had not expected that merely 30% of the Ancient One's powers were enough to have him blow up. This was extremely terrifying. Could it be that the Eternal Seat possessed the power of Saint along with it? If it were Saint who had did that, he could definitely have Lin Fan spitting out blood with 30% of his strength. However, there was no way he could cause him to blow up like that. Ding! Eternal God Body Experience Points plus 250,000. Alright, this can work. The mythical parasol tree let out an immense amount of life force to support Lin Fan, while his blood sea started churning as well. The ocean of blood within his paradise started rumbling as a series of blood mist shrouded him up slowly. Every single stream of the blood mist possessed an endless amount of power. Instantly, Lin Fan was as good as new. However, this time around, he dragged the Ancient One with him into the heaven and earth smelt. Given the current strength of the Ancient One, if he were to slip up or something, he might even cause an immense calamity for the entire Xuanwang world. Again, right now, Lin Fan was feeling extremely great. This was the best type of feeling ever. The rise of his physical body state was the greatest form of insurance ever. Even if he didn't have what it took to suppress the utmost beings of the ancient race, at least he could ensure that they wouldn't have what it took to take him down either. As long as he was alive, he could then slowly toy and mess with the opponent till they died. Bam! Once more, Lin Fan was turned into a pile of flesh and blood. Holy FCK, this time around, this is the most miserable attempt at leveling my physical body state ever. However, this was a coexistence of pain and happiness. The skyrocketing experience points were the greatest form of encouragement for Lin Fan. Ancient One, slightly gentler. Use 20% of your strength. Lin Fan had to admit defeat a little. The feeling of being blown up into pieces of meat wasn't all that great. And, it also hurt like sh*t. Yes, master. Boom, yet another fist flew over. Bam, blood and meat sprayed out in all directions and rumbled out furiously. FCK me, just 20% of his powers are enough to blow me up as well. This is just way too extreme, isn't it? Lin Fan was stumped right now. He hadn't expected that allowing the Ancient One to use 20% of his powers would cause him to blow up as well. If the Ancient One were to come with all he had, wouldn't Lin Fan be turned into dust? A little gentler, 15%, Lin Fan said. Okay, yet another fist. When the fist approached, Lin Fan felt that this was just acceptable, something he could still defend. However, the outcome wasn't all that great still. Bam! Instantly, Lin Fan could only feel an irrepressible force infiltrating its way into his body. Like a bullet that was ricocheting, Lin Fan slammed out onto the walls of the heaven and earth, smelt and spat out a mouthful of blood. Ding! Eternal God Body Experience Points plus 150,000. Such strong powers, Lin Fan lamented in his heart. At the same time, he felt that he had really earned big this time around. The strength of the Ancient One was so formidable. Even if he were to return to the ancient saint world, he would have nothing to fear. Continue. Lin Fan stood there, but in the blink of an eye, his body was just like a bullet that was sent flying. For a moment or so, the Ancient One was getting into the mood of enjoying the beating. His body flashed nimbly as he rained punch after punch on Lin Fan. Bam, bam, Ancient One, are you getting addicted to this whacking? And don't whack my face. Out of nowhere, the Ancient One had punched onto Lin Fan's face. Instantly, his face got swollen up because of it. Yes, master. Lin Fan was a little exasperated. Don't stop. Continue. Ding. Eternal God Body Experience Points plus 150,000. Ding. Eternal God Body leveled up. Ding. Eternal God Body level 9. The moment Lin Fan heard the sounds of the notification, he was delighted. However, when he realized that his physical body state hadn't leveled up, he was again disappointed. But this didn't matter. As long as he were to persevere on, this physical body state of his would definitely be raised steadily. One night later, use all of your strength. At this point, Lin Fan's physical body state had been climbing sturdily. By now, it had already reached an optimum status. He was just that bit away from raising his physical body state to its pinnacle. Bam! This single punch of the Ancient One was extremely formidable and ferocious. If not for the fact that they were within the heaven and earth smelt, the entire Xuanwang world might have descended into a calamitous state. Bam! Lin Fan roared out as that monstrous power slammed down on his body. Level up! Level up! Lin Fan yelled out wildly as his body was wrapped around in a godly glow. This godly glow was far from normal, as though there was some utmost wisdom about the body contained within it. Ding! Eternal God Body leveled up. Ding! Physical body state. Divine Celestial Level 10, Eternal God State. Instantly, Lin Fan felt as though there was something different about his body right now. Every single piece of meat down to every single last cell began to rumble furiously. Power. All of it was power. In fact, Lin Fan could tell that his physical body state was probably the strongest ever within the universe. This was a body that nothing could penetrate or destroy. Ding! Congratulations to owner for raising his physical body state to its pinnacle. Special item reward. Infinite worlds in a single thought. Lin Fan was surprised, not quite understanding what was going on. What the hell is this infinite worlds in a single thought? Looks like some good stuff. Lin Fan was a little mystified now. It had been a really long time since the system had given him something. To think that at the very moment when his physical body state was raised to its pinnacle, it would give him something like this. This was really magical indeed. Chapter 788. One living worse than the other. Chapter 788. One living worse than the other. Infinite worlds in a single thought. Abandon and sacrifice everything to open up the infinite worlds. 1 in 1 million chance of gaining control over the infinite worlds. Get the FCK lost. This mother CKER is scamming. The moment Lin Fan saw this, he blew his fuse up. He had thought that it was some good sh*t. To think that it would be something like this. 1 in 1 million chance. Why not make the description, certain death without any doubts? That would help to crash anyone's hopes way better. He then tossed this infinite worlds in a single thought into his storage, banishing it to the back of his mind. He did not even want to consider giving it a shot at all. At this moment, the powers within his body were boiling like a volcano. A single thought could have them all bursting forth. With every single breath he took, it was as though all his cells were coming to life in the wildest manner possible, pushing his physical body state to a pinnacle status. Lin Fan raised his finger. The feeling of being able to tear through the entire void with just the single lift of his finger was getting stronger than ever. This was a type of feeling that was born from his physical body state being raised to a certain extent. Given Lin Fan's physical body state right now, even if he were to just use his body to ram out, he could even destroy an utmost treasure. An existence as such could only have him described as a complete human bulldozer. Capable of just destroying everything with his physical body state alone. Even though the Ancient One had been trained by Lin Fan, he still retained his own self-awareness. Master, your physical body. The Ancient One was extremely startled. For a moment or so, he couldn't speak due to his amazement. Even as an utmost being of the ancient race, he did not have such a tough physical body. Even the Ancient One had realized that his master's physical body state had already reached an eternal god state right now. Ha 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 ha, Lin Fan could not stop laughing out wildly. He was extremely happy right now. Alright, let's go. Lin Fan kept the Ancient One within his paradise. Right now, he wanted to seek out those students of his one by one. Even though he hadn't cared for them as much as he did for Zhichao and the others, no matter what, they were still tied by a teacher-student relationship. All the while, Lin Fan had always been fighting solo. In some aspects, he was definitely losing out. Right now, Lin Fan's only thought was to groom the people by his side up entirely. Even though it was definite that they would not be able to deal with the utmost beings of the ancient race even at the end of the grooming, Lin Fan could definitely hand them everything else with ease, such as the sovereign kings and whatnot. Otherwise, if he had to deal with everything personally, it would be pretty troublesome. In some deep, mountainous area, a man who was dressed extremely simply was bending over and plowing the ground in a patch of fields. Tianzhao, why are you living life worse than ever? Lin Fan floated gently in the void and looked down at the man below. For a moment or so, he almost gasped out. Gosh, even in 5 years' time, this guy should be only in his 20s. How could he just let go of all worldly affairs and retreat to the forests just like that? The body of Cao Tianzhao who was plowing the fields jerked momentarily as he looked up into the void. At that moment, the entire world fell silent. Cao Tianzhao could not believe everything he was seeing right now. That unchanging face of his began to loosen up as he started trembling with emotions. Teacher. Yes. Lin Fan nodded his head as his brows furrowed. From the eyes of Cao Tianzhao, he could make out a feeling in immense despair. After that, Lin Fan questioned for a bit before finding out eventually that Tianzhao had been hurt. Because he had offended someone he shouldn't have, the other party hunted him down and had his wife killed. Even though he still slaughtered the other party eventually, Tianzhao felt that life was meaningless after that. He then decided to retreat to the mountains and live the life of a caveman. Highs. Lin Fan patted the shoulder of Cao Tianzhao without saying anything more. Since this was a thing of the past, he didn't have to mention it any further. It was just that Cao Tianzhao, who was once the liveliest and chirpiest of the bunch, was now extremely solemn and reticent. He was someone who was merely in his 20s, yet behaved like an old man in his 40s. Follow your teacher and leave. You're a good man who can definitely stand on top of the world. This state you're in right now wouldn't be something that your dead wife would wish to see you in as well. Lin Fan said. Yes, teacher. Cao Tianzhao lowered his head while saying. Lin Fan shook his head. He knew that this student of his was still someone without a will right now. After that, without saying anything more, Lin Fan brought Tianzhao with him into the void and headed off in another direction. Dragon Spirit City, Han family. Zhu Di, you piece of trash. To think that you can't even complete a task as simple as such, and yet you have the cheek to remain in the Han family. Within the main hall, a middle-aged man who was seated on the seat of the family head bellowed out. The expression he had when he was looking at Zhu Di was filled with extreme contempt. Zhu Di's fat body trembled momentarily as he gripped his fists tightly. He then looked over at the side where a guest was standing, looking extremely worried while hugging her child. He then released the grip on his fists. 5 years ago, Zudi was rescued by the big Missy of the Han family. He then became the personal bodyguard for this Missy. Eventually, things worked out well by nature and he was now together with his Missy. However, there were many things lying beneath the surface for the rich and powerful families. Even though Zudi's strength was pretty decent, there were countless people who were far stronger than him in a big family as such. How could there be any position left for him? Family head, Zudi acknowledges his mistake. However, it's just that. I can't bring myself to attack that woman and her child. Zudi replied. HMPH, can't bear to, then what's the point of me rearing you? The Han family head barked out. After being scolded, Zudi did not even dare to rebut for a moment or two as he could only continue hanging his head down low. There were plenty of people from the Han family nearby who were gloating over his misfortune. As far as this Zudi was concerned, who had entered the Han family through his wife, they looked down on him from the bottom of their hearts. Father, please stop scolding him. Han Lei carried her child and pounced out while crying. HMPH. Unfilial daughter, you've disgraced the Han family thoroughly to bring a piece of trash back home. Didn't you say that he has a teacher? Where's the teacher now, huh? The moment the Han family head thought about this, he worked himself up in a fit. Back then, he heard from his daughter that Zudi had an extremely powerful teacher. Because of that, he started having some agendas of his own. But, to think that after betrothing his daughter to this piece of trash, that so-called teacher had never appeared. In fact, he had never even seen this guy one single time at all in the past few years. At that moment, he realized that he had been had. Trash. Giving birth to a daughter is also King worthless. Look at that pathetically shishta *s potential she has, and yet you have the cheek to keep her in the Han family. Gee grandfather. The child in Han Lei's embrace was like a porcelain doll. At this moment, she let out a frightened look as she shuddered while calling out to her grandfather. Shut up. The Han family head was enraged. There could never be any place for trashes to remain in big families. Even if she was the daughter of the eldest daughter of the Han family, that was no exception to the rule. At this moment, Zudi raised his head and glared straight at the Han family head. Han family head, please respect my woman and my daughter. Otherwise, even if you're Han Lei's father, I'm not going to be polite to you anymore. Zudi growled out. Why, you're thinking of going against the heavens now? So, you think you're somebody now, you piece of trash. It's been 5 years. Has your cultivation state even grown in the slightest? Greater celestial lower level. If I were to head out right now, I'd find a whole bunch of people just like that roaming the streets. What do you even have? Father, please calm your anger. He didn't mean to go against you like that. Han Lei stepped in hurriedly. She then looked over to Zudi and shook her head furiously. Looking at that aggrieved position his woman was in, an inexplicable surge of flame began to rise in Zudi's heart. But when he saw that young daughter of his, he bore with it reluctantly. HMPH. If he wasn't coming against me, what was he doing? Trashes are King trashes forever. If I were to head out right now, which big family out there wouldn't be laughing at our Han family right now? To think that the big Missy of the Han family would be married to a piece of trash. You had better listen well and good. If you wish to remain in the Han family, you had better obey my words properly. If I ask you to do anything, you do. What now? What's with that expression of yours? A trash will always remain as a trash forever. Where's that teacher of yours that you lied to your family head here about? I do wish to see what sort of a piece of *T trash teacher could train up a piece of trash like you. Shut up. Do not insult my teacher. All of a sudden, Zudi's body started shivering endlessly as an ominous aura spread out of him. He was evidently riled. The Han family head froze up for a moment as his heart jerked. He then straightened his body and stood up straight. Why? You're getting angry to cover up for your embarrassment. You want to strike at me. If you've got what it takes, then get that teacher of yours here then. Your family head wants to see just what capabilities he's got. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. As you wish then. At this moment, a voice boomed out from the void and exploded within the main hall. Zudi, who was standing there, felt his body jerk instantly. His face then changed immediately as he spun around and looked outside. From the outsides, a figure was walking out of the void. Landing on the ground, he walked in step after step. Teacher. Zudi's voice started trembling. Chapter 789, He isn't human. He's a god. Chapter 789, He isn't human. He's a god. Lin Fan felt a little like crying right now. What in the world was up with this world? Why were his disciples living a life one worse than the other? One of them lost the love of his life and entered disparity ever since, secluding away from the rest of the world. One of them was married into a big family by his wife, without a single bit of position and being looked down everywhere he went. However, he had no other choice but to lay his head low because they were family. No matter what, Lin Fan himself was the strongest existence in the entire Xuanwang world, someone who wasn't even afraid of the utmost beings of the ancient race. And, if his disciples were living such wretched lives, where was he to put his face as a teacher? Just as the Han family head was about to bark out, he heard the trembling voice of the piece of trash and then started pondering. Teacher, could this young man be the teacher of that piece of trash? The Han family head did not speak at all, sitting there quietly and patiently. He wanted to see just where the teacher of this trash could possibly hail from. Under the watchful aura of Lin Fan, everything within the Han family seemed to be under his control. Zhu Di was a greater celestial lower-level cultivation state being. For the big families, it was accurate to say that this couldn't be considered as extremely strong. However, for him to lead a life being oppressed as such was extremely unreasonable as well. With this cultivation state, no matter where he went, it would be easy for him to lead a life that was extremely flourishing. How could he suffer like this? Zhu Yu, the state that you're in right now has your teacher feeling really disappointed. Lin Fan walked over slowly and spoke out calmly. Zhu Yu was extremely emotional right now. His throat was choking with all the things he wanted to say out. However, when he heard the words of his teacher, he could not help but lower his head. He knew that his teacher was blaming him for this. Zhu Yu wasn't silly. He knew that the predicament he was in right now would result in a loss of his teacher's face. While others may not know who his teacher was, how could Zhu Yu not know? His teacher was truly the sickest of all the powerful beings. And as his student, he had allowed himself to lead such a wretched life. This was just smearing the name of his teacher. Teacher, Han Lei walked over briskly to greet Lin Fan. The first time she saw Lin Fan was 5 years ago. Yes, Lin Fan nodded his head. To think that Zhu Yu would actually bear fruits with this big missy back then. Sir, you are his teacher. The Han family head spoke up and asked. However, Lin Fan did not reply him, not even bothering to look at him, and your child has grown so big already. Lin Fan looked at the little girl that looked like a porcelain doll, who was leaning on Han Lei's side. She was chubby and had a fair cute face. She bore a pair of gigantic innocent eyes that shone like jewels, giving off a childish glow. However, at this moment, there was a trace of fear within those innocent eyes of hers. Han Lei immediately pulled her child before her. Junjun, come, hurry and call your granduncle teacher. The Han family head who was seated there was looking pretty terrible right now. He hadn't expected that this fella wouldn't even glance at him once. With that, a ball of fury started boiling in his heart. However, he bore with it just yet. At this moment, he wanted to see what sort of a name this guy could make for himself. He was so young, it was not as though he could have many capabilities. Granduncle teacher. The tender little hands of Zhu Junjun clutched at the edges of her mother's clothes anxiously. Those bright sparkly eyes of hers surveyed Lin Fan carefully. When that innocuous tone of hers rang over calmly, it caused Lin Fan's heart to feel fluffy all over. November LBJNN. At this moment, Lin Fan had not expected his seniority to rise so quickly. To think that even his very own students would have children of their own while he didn't even have a single child to his name. Lin Fan loved kids, especially cute kids. He could not resist stretching out his hands and pinching that cute chubby cheek of hers. This Zhu Yu really did have a good life indeed. While he didn't look all that great himself, to think that he would have such an adorable daughter. Granduncle teacher, could you help my daddy, please? Junjun doesn't wish to see daddy being scolded by grandfather. That gentle, childlike voice was extremely innocent. Lin Fan smiled out, all right. With your granduncle teacher around, no one will be able to bully your daddy. Junjun, is there anything you like? Your granduncle teacher here will gift it to you. Lin Fan fondled the head of Junjun. This daughter of Zhu Yu had an extremely poor potential to her. Given a potential as such, even if she were to work tirelessly at cultivating her entire life, she might not be able to even become a post-celestial. However, at this moment, as Lin Fan was fondling her head, her potential started changing all of a sudden. That initially dim and dark fortune of hers began to open up like beautiful flowers blooming, piercing straight up into the sky. Teacher, Zhu Yu was looking at his daughter. All of a sudden, he realized that the potential of his daughter was undergoing an extremely large change. If one were to not notice, they wouldn't be able to tell of the changes that were happening. But having been with his teacher in the past, Zuyu naturally knew what his teacher was capable of. To his shock, he was discovering that the initially worst potential of his daughter was taking on a huge change. In fact, he could even sense that those initially shut pores of Junjun were suddenly all opened up, and were taking in the spirit chi of the heaven and earth, flushing across her entire body. Junjun loves the snow the most. However, Mummy said that the snow has already ended, and it will be a long time till I can get to see it again. Junjun replied. Haha, as long as Junjun likes it, even if the heavens are not snowing, your granduncle teacher will have them snow for you. From now on forth, as long as you wish for snow, Junjun, the heavens must snow. Lin Fan grinned out as he lifted his hand gently. All of a sudden, the initially clear skies started pouring down snow like the feathers of a goose. Snowflakes fluttered everywhere and covered the ground. Granduncle teacher, it's snowing, it's snowing. Junjun, who was being hugged in Lin Fan's embrace, suddenly started exclaiming out in excitement when she caught sight of the snowflakes. Everyone who were observing were completely stunned. Now that winter was over, how could it possibly snow? At this moment, their faces were all flushed while looking Lin Fan in unison with a look of incredulity. Could all of this have been done by that young man? It's not over yet, haha. Let your granduncle teacher find you some companions. Lin Fan opened up his palm. As though the snowflakes outside were being attracted by something uncontrollably, they flew into the house and started spinning around in his palm. The masses did not know what this young man wanted to do once more. But, the thing that happened next had everyone completely dumbfounded. The two snowflakes seemed to possess some life of its own all of a sudden, turning into two snowflake elves the size of his palm. Alright, go out and play now. Lin Fan put down Junjun, who was filled with an immense curiosity and excitement right now, allowing her to follow those two snowflake elves out. Given Lin Fan's capabilities right now, creating things was no longer anything difficult. Even if it were just an ordinary snowflake, Lin Fan could give it the gift of life. Despite being Lin Fan's student, Zuyu was still watching with his eyes wide open at the fact that his teacher could create life so effortlessly. Needless to say, it was even more astounding for the masses of the Han family. The Han family head was scared so badly he fell off his chair. His face was in shock right now, with his mouth gaping as though he had been scared solid. Alright, as you have wished, yours truly is here. You had something you wanted to say to yours truly. Lin Fan was neither happy nor enraged, putting on a calm expression. However, just by standing there alone, he was creating an immense pressure for everyone from the Han family. Just that series of miraculous feats he had performed earlier were more than enough to petrify the entire Han family. This wasn't a human any longer. This was a god. Chapter 790, Great Change in Attitude. Chapter 790, Great Change in Attitude. At this moment, everyone from the top to the bottom of the Han family was in shock. They were no fools. They knew that the scene they had just witnessed moments earlier was just way too sick. Wielding control over the heavens, making it snow on his whim. Creating life from snow. These were things never seen or heard before. Why aren't you talking now? Didn't you wish to see yours truly? And now that yours truly is here, you've gone all quiet now. Towards this Han family, Lin Fan truly did not have the intention of doing anything much. No matter what, this Han family was chosen by his disciple himself. Given his greater celestial lower-level cultivation state, it would naturally not be an issue for him to want to leave the Han family. However, Zuyu chose to stay on his own accord. One side was willing to endure the insults while the other side rained down the insults. There was nothing to be said about this. However, no matter what, Lin Fan still had to regain some face for his disciple. Otherwise, he would have endured years of bullying for nothing. The face of the Han family head took on a stark change. All of a sudden, he was all smiles now. Senior, it's a misunderstanding. This is just a misunderstanding. Immediately, the Han family head stood up and rushed to Lin Fan's side. At the same time, the Han family head was feeling really terrible right now in his heart. Zudi, if you had such a strong teacher, why didn't you work harder at proving this to us? While it would be difficult for us to believe you, we wouldn't choose not to believe you if you had been more serious as well. Back when the Han family head had agreed to let his daughter marry Zudi, it was mainly because of the fact that Zudi had a teacher. His daughter had once told him that Zudi had a teacher who was extremely powerful. His powers were beyond ordinarily powerful. With that, the Han family head bore an agenda. If that were truly the case, wouldn't his Han family gain an even stronger backing by then? And furthermore, the relationship of his daughter with this man was getting a little out of hand as well. Since that was the case, the Han family head took the initiative and just married off his own daughter straight. But as things progressed, the Han family head started to realize that things weren't right at times. Did Zhu Di really even have a teacher? This guy didn't even appear at Zhu Di's day of wedding. For the Han family head, this didn't sound too credible all of a sudden. And later on, his embarrassment turned into anger as he worked himself into a rage. He felt that he was cheated. If Zhu Di truly had a powerful teacher as mentioned, how could that guy not appear at the wedding day of his very own student? Therefore, the Han family head got ever angrier each time he thought about it. Not only did he lose a daughter, he gained nothing in return. With that, he had never treated Zhu Di with respect ever since. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Oh, misunderstanding. Lin Fan raised one side of his brow and gave a long, implying reply. Senior, it's truly a misunderstanding. Even though Zhu Di is my son-in-law, he's as good as my son. And the reason for marrying down my daughter to Zhu Di is because I took a liking to him. The Han family head explained hurriedly as his inner heart thumped furiously. He hadn't expected that everything that Zhu Di had said was all real. He truly had such a powerful teacher. If he had long known that this was the case, he wouldn't have dared to act so brazenly even if he had 10 guts to him. He would even fawn over Zhu Di like he was a treasure. How could he possibly have Zhu Di get wronged as such? Marry down. Lin Fan furrowed his brows, acting like he was displeased. The Han family head's face froze as that old face of his turned pale. He had realized that he blurted out the wrong thing by accident. And no, I meant marry up, marry up. Everyone from the Han family lowered their heads at this moment. They had mocked and insulted Zhu Di earlier on as well, but right now, they were all shutting up. At the same time, they felt their hearts shivering. The Han family head would definitely not have anything happening to him since he had a daughter to back him up. But, if Zhu Di were to complain pitifully to his teacher about all the grievances he had suffered all these years, then they could very well be punished. Han Lei looked at the way her own father was so scared, and did not even know whether to laugh or to get angry. How could her own father behave as such? Oh, my dear good son-in-law, it's your father-in-law's temper that's not good. I hope that you don't put it to heart. The Han family head came over to the side of Zhu Di and patted the latter's palm sincerely and earnestly. I've only got one dear daughter. Naturally, I would wish that she didn't marry the wrong man. Even though I may have been slightly harsher with you normally, it's all for your own good. Perhaps the way I've presented myself may have been wrong as a father-in-law, but I'm sure you won't hold it against me, right? The Han family head was like a changed man right now. From the way he spoke to the expression on his face, everything had changed entirely. He was all amicable and kind right now. Zhu Di was finding it a little hard to adapt to the sudden changes in the attitude of the Han family head. I wouldn't dare to. No matter what, the Han family head was Zhu Di's father-in-law. He would naturally help him retain some face. Oh, it's good that you don't hold it against me. Once I reach the age of 100, I've still got to entrust the mantle of the Han family into your hands. ... Looking at the expression on her father's face, Han Lei's heart softened. She then looked at Zhu Di. When he caught sight of Han Lei's gaze, he understood what he had to do immediately. Teacher, my father-in-law has treated Layer and me nicely. Please let this matter be over. Zhu Di knew the temper of his teacher, it was short to the extreme. If this were to drag on, things would definitely be bad for the Han family. However, the most he could do was to plead for them, that was all. Since you said that, this will be the end of it then. Lin Fan replied. This was a family affair of Zhu Di no matter what. Whether or not the Han family head treated him nicely, it didn't matter to Lin Fan. After all, with Lin Fan's repressive presence, even if he didn't want to treat Zhu Di nicely, he would have to, unless he was tired of living. The moment the Han family head heard this, he heaved out a sigh of relief. That 2 moves of Lin Fan had already rattled the entire Han family. If they were to anger this guy, it would definitely be a tragedy. Alright, Zhu Di, come with your teacher to look for your other student brothers. Now that this was settled today, Zhu Di would definitely not come across any difficulties in the Han family in the future. Yes, Zhu Di replied. After that, Zhu Di settled down Han Lei and left with Lin Fan. The moment Lin Fan left, the Han family head collapsed down onto the ground with a thud and breathed heavily as though he could not handle such an intense pressure any longer. To think that Zhu Di's teacher would be this strong. The Han family head gasped out in rejoice. Father, I've long told you that the teacher of my husband is extremely strong. The reason why he hadn't appeared in the past 5 years was because he had ascended up into the upper world. Han Lei could finally put down a huge piece of rock in her heart as well. Ascended. The moment the Han family head heard this, he hated himself in his heart. Why hadn't he chosen to believe this in the past? If he had, how could something as such possibly happen? He would have long tried to build a good and lasting relationship with this son-in-law of his. The result of it by now would have been unthinkable. But now that the Han family had thought about it, it wasn't too late to start building it up now. Han Lei was his own daughter and Zhu Di was his son-in-law. These were facts that even the heavens could not deny. Alright, so, we're going to go all out on building ourselves up and progressing from now on. If we were to meet with any issues we can't resolve, do you think this son-in-law of mine can help to settle it? And even if this son-in-law can't deal with it, we can then look for his teacher for help, right? Father, stop imagining things. Zhu Di's teacher does not like unnecessary fuss, nor does he like to commit evil. Han Lei replied. Daughter, how is your father imagining things? Alright, that's that now. I've got to go accompany this granddaughter of mine now. Han Lei looked at everything before her. Even though she knew that this was all because of Zhu Di's teacher, she felt satisfied with the outcome as well. Zhu Di, it's not that your teacher here wants to berate you. But, for you to live till such a state as a man, it's really quite something. Within his paradise, Lin Fan spoke out. Zhu Di shrugged his head, expressing his embarrassment. Teacher, I couldn't have done anything. Highs. Alright, we'll leave it at that. Go and accompany Tianzhao. That kid has been through a lot and has now turned despondent. We've got to help him walk out of this mental turmoil of his. Lin Fan said. Chapter 791, The Last Person. Chapter 791, The Last Person. To use Zhu Yu's last words, every family has their own sets of issues. Lin Fan suddenly realized that these students of his were already walking further than him in life. While he was still being carefree and having no worries, these students of his had already started worrying over their families. In a country somewhere, today was the ascension of a new emperor, marking the first generation of this empire. There were 100 officials gathered around the throne. Xiao's and Lu Shuishui were donning on battle armors, with an expression full of satisfaction on their faces. Xiao's and Lu Shuishui had long been married together, and were just exploring the Xuanwang world together. Because they grew stronger, they were eventually scouted by an emperor who begged them for help relentlessly. Now that 5 years had passed and the dynasty was set up, both of them felt that it was about time for them to leave as well. Courtier Xiao, Courtier Lu, receive your decrees. There was a middle-aged man seated on the royal dragon throne. He gave off a noble air around him as that emperor's aura covered the entire throne. Courtier Xiao and Courtier Lu, because they have opened up the entire empire for your emperor here, they have laid down a remarkable amount of credit to their name. From this day forth, they shall be conferred as the founding marshals of our empire, and will have control over the entire empire's army. The name of this emperor was Yu. As such, he gave himself the title of Emperor Yu, and the country was called the Yu country. And now that the title was bestowed, all the civil and military officials were all shocked as well as envious over it. Control over the empire's army. That was some remarkable authority bestowed upon them. They were literally beneath no one but the emperor himself. And the fact that Emperor Yu would hand over control over the entire army towards this couple was enough to show his trust towards the both of them. Xiao's and Lu Shuishui exchanged a single look and continued, Emperor Yu, now that your empire is built up, both of us man and wife do not want to hanker over fame and fortune. We only wish to leave silently and lead a life of mere commoners. Please grant us our wish, Emperor Yu. My two dear courtiers, could it be that you're displeased over the rewards given by your majesty here? Your majesty is more than willing to share all the fruits of our victory together with the both of you. Emperor Yu continued. For the Emperor Yu, the building up of his empire had a direct relationship with this couple. If not for the both of them, Emperor Yu would have died countless times. Emperor Yu, back when you sought the help of the both of us, we had already made ourselves clear. Once your empire was built up, the both of us would leave. And now that the empire is ready and well, the both of us believe that it will definitely flourish and prosper under your leadership and guidance. Emperor Yu, now that the war is over, the both of us would only wish to lead the life of common peasants. But, should you require our assistance in the future, Emperor Yu, both of us will definitely never reject you. Xiao's and Lu Shuishui both did not want to be embroiled in the affairs of a dynasty. They knew the meaning of the saying, great merits would make the king feel uneasy. As the saying went, the higher is one's position, the more they would be targeted. Even though Emperor Yu might be willing to confer them everything right now, they knew that given some time, it may probably bring forth more trouble than it's worth, and probably even death. Since that's the case, Emperor Yu sighed, expressing his disappointment. To think that at the end of the day, the both of you would be doing the best out of everyone. At this moment, Lin Fan floated in the voids gently. Lin Fan had not expected that Shaoxan Lu Shuishui would be doing the best out of all his disciples. In just the short span of a few years, they had managed to help someone build up an entire empire. When this voice rang out, there was a commotion at the throne as everyone turned wary. However, this wasn't the same case for Shaoxan Lu Shuishui. The both of them changed their expressions as they jerked their heads up into the void. Teacher, Shaoxan Lu Shuishui had not expected that they would be able to see their teacher once more. For the both of them, Lin Fan had an extremely large impact in their lives. This was something that they couldn't possibly forget over a couple of lifetimes. Yes, Lin Fan looked at Shaoxan Lu Shuishui in satisfaction. For Lin Fan, Xiao's and Zhui Mo were probably the ones who had the highest cultivation states out of all his students. My two dear courtiers, this is. Emperor Yu looked over at the man in the void and felt his heart tighten. Instantly, he had an idea of roping this person in. Emperor Yu, this is the teacher of the both of us. Xiao's replied. Xiao's was the son of a big family to begin with. However, because of some issues, the Xiao family ended up falling apart. For Xiao's, the decline of the Xiao family was something that, in fact, lifted a burden off his shoulders. He didn't have to think so much about anything any longer, nor did he have to trouble over different things. Alright, come along with your teacher here. Lin Fan said. Yes, Xiao's nodded his head. Instantly, Lin Fan swept his robes and disappeared with the group. The Emperor Yu had wanted to say something. However, he could only swallow it back right now. The both of you are quite something, aren't you? To think that you guys would have done something this big in the past few years. If you guys had accepted it, you would have been great marshals. Lin Fan said. Teacher, it's nothing, we had intended to leave right from the start after helping him build up his empire. There's no mercy to speak of in the royal family. While we may have been conferred the titles of marshal, it's hard to say that he wouldn't be afraid of us wanting to steal his throne and end up killing us instead in the future. Xiao said knowingly. But since you know that, why would you help him to build up his empire? Lin Fan chuckled out. Teacher, I've traveled across the Xuanwang world with Shuishui. Because of the beasts, there were many cities that were left destroyed, and dynasties that had crumbled down. The masses were in a state of chaos while it was hard for the commoners to live properly. After that, we noticed that this Emperor Yu was a benevolent leader. Hence, we agreed to help him build up his empire. At the same time, those people around him might have long been assassinated if we hadn't helped them to build up the empire. Xiao's explained. I see, so that's the case. Alright, right now, all of you students are once again reunited. We're just short of those few right now. Once your teacher rounds them up, we'll set forth to settle a big affair then. Lin Fan said. November LBJNN. Going against the ancient race was something for which Lin Fan naturally had to seek out people he was familiar with. And these students of his were people that Lin Fan knew the most. He had also put in quite a bit of effort on them in the past. If he could bring them to the ancient saint world, given his own powers, their cultivation states would definitely skyrocket rapidly. Teacher, what happened to Tianzhao over the past few years? He's changed a lot. If not for the fact that you mentioned he was Tianzhao, I would have found it hard to recognize him at all. Xiao's remarked. It's been a tragic change. Yes, Highs, it was tragic. Lin Fan did not know what else to say. He then had Xiao's and the others go comfort him while he continued heading forth. In some big city, Zhui Mo was now the instructor of a martial arts dojo, teaching martial arts to kids from poor families. From the beginning, Zhui Mo was the child of a servant. By fate, he had the affinity of being Lin Fan's disciple, and because of that, his innate potential underwent changes. At the same time, he was extremely tenacious. In these past 5 years, out of all of Lin Fan's many students, Xiao's was the only one who could compare up to him. Zhang Tianao and Han Mengmeng were a famous married hero couple in the entire Xuanwang world who fought against villainy, making a big name for themselves. At the time Lin Fan found the both of them, they were in the midst of hunting down an adulterer. Now that they were finally reuniting after 5 years, there were many things to say naturally. For Lin Fan, this was a trip filled with memories. Now that he had rounded up all his disciples, there was only a single person left that Lin Fan wanted to seek out. That was none other than Yao Wuxi. Yao Wuxi had a special body type. Lin Fan's memories about that were good as new. He wondered how Yao Wuxi would have progressed in the past 5 years. The next appearance Lin Fan made was above the void of the dead demon city. The dead demon city of today was still a bustling place filled with people. Now that he thought about it properly, it seemed like it had been a long time since he was last here. The reason why Yao Wuxi was able to soar had a connection that was inseparable from Lin Fan. And just like that, a talent was silently groomed by him from the dark. The thought of it had Lin Fan feeling a little excited. Chapter 792, This Isn't a Simple Fart. Chapter 792, This Isn't a Simple Fart. Young master, where are we preparing to head out for fun these days? Within the yard of the largest mansion in the Yao family at this moment, a young man laid there in a carefree manner. He was being massaged by several female attendants at this moment. Beside him, Daha, Ha, and San Ha stood while looking at their young master respectfully. During that act back then, they had performed seamlessly. And it was exactly because of that their young master was bluffed for 2 whole years. That caused their young master to have to endure quite a bit of suffering outside. And when their young master returned home for revenge, he found out that the 3 of them were living a splendid life. At that moment, he was entirely taken aback for a moment or so. After numerous explanations, Yao Wuxi could only sigh out with a face of helplessness, indicating that since things had already happened as such, what could he do about it? Sanha, why are you still calling him young master? You've got to call him 6th master now. Daha warned Sanha. Doesn't matter, we're family, what's the difference? Yao Wuxi waved his hand dismissively, unbothered by it in the least bit. The current family head of the Yao family was the big brother of Yao Wuxi. However, Yao Wuxi was no longer someone hated in the Yao family. The reason why the Yao family could do so well and flourish had a lot to do with him after all. Yao Wuxi was a renowned powerful being within the Xuanwang world right now. There was no one who would dare to act insolently against him. In fact, there were even many big families that wanted to marry off their daughters to Yao Wuxi, so that they could tie some strings with the Yao family. However, for Yao Wuxi, these chicks were way too lowly. At the same time, he didn't want to be tied down by women. 6th brother, help me, help me. At this moment, a hurried cry rang out from outside. He saw a figure rushing in anxiously. 3rd master. When Daha and the others caught sight of who it was, they greeted him respectfully. 3rd brother, what's the issue that has you panicking as such? Yao Wuxi asked in a calm voice. In the past, those 5 brothers of his would come and whack him for no reason from time to time. However, Yao Wuxi had long let go of the unhappiness in the past, and had allowed everything to start afresh. And right now, these 5 brothers of his were extremely loving and doting towards him. This had Yao Wuxi feeling the true warmth of family. 6th brother, you've got to help your 3rd brother here. Just now within the city, your 3rd brother here caught sight of a chick. And there I was thinking to myself, isn't this the type of girl that my 6th brother would like? With that, I decided to go up and bully, flirt with her. But who knew that out of nowhere, a man would appear and slap your 3rd brother's face swollen with a single slap. 6th brother, you've got to stand up for me. The 3rd son of the Yao family, Yao Xingfeng cried out. Right now, Yao Wuxi was the strongest in the entire Yao family. In fact, even within the Xuanwang world, these 6 brothers were all top-tiered powerful beings, the cream of the crop. Oh, to think that someone would dare to create trouble in the dead demon city. Did they not know that you're the 3rd brother of Yao Wuxi? Yao Wuxi's brows twitched, a little interested now. I said that, but that fella said that he's the brother and continued whacking. Yao Xingfeng covered his face and complained out. I see, alright then, since I'm free anyway, let's go take a look. Don't worry, 3rd brother. With me around, I'll definitely seek justice for you. Yao Wuxi said. 6th brother, you're so nice to me. And to think that I treated you as such in the past. I must have been blind. 3rd brother, don't say that. We're all a family, let bygones be bygones. Alright, let us go. I've got to see just where this guy hails from. Yao Wuxi waved his hand. Instantly, everyone walked out imposingly towards the city. When Lin Fan arrived at the dead demon city, he had wanted to head over to Yao Wuxi's place immediately. However, he caught sight of a guy taking liberties with a chick. At first, Lin Fan had thought that that must be Yao Wuxi. But on second glance, he realized that it wasn't. And not only that, he heard the other party mentioning that he was the 3rd master of the Yao family. Naturally, Lin Fan had to teach him a good lesson. Little buddy there. When the sixth master of the Yao family appears later, you've got to acknowledge your wrongdoings. That's right. Even though the sixth master of the Yao family is flamboyant, he is quite kind-hearted and isn't an evil soul. As long as you admit your mistake, things will definitely be fine. The surrounding bystanders started advising Lin Fan, who sat there and shrugged it off while grinning, totally unbothered at all. Using his fingers, Lin Fan smudged across his face. His face started vibrating before taking on another look. He had to see for himself the extent to which Yao Wuxi had grown by now. Who is the one who dares to bully the third brother of Yao Wuxi? Are you tired of living? Before he even arrived, his voice boomed out first. The moment Lin Fan heard this voice, he chuckled out. Even though it had been so many years, this guy's character hadn't changed at all. The crowd that were surrounding Lin Fan dispersed. However, they still looked at him worriedly nevertheless. If this guy were to continue acting so tough, it would be hard to resolve this issue soon. Were you the one who slapped my third brother? The moment Yao Wuxi appeared, he acted extremely tyrannically as he pointed out at Lin Fan while saying. Right now, Lin Fan's features were not the only things that had changed. His aura had changed as well. Therefore, it was only natural that Yao Wuxi could not recognize it. That's right, I was the one who slapped him. I heard that you're Yao Wuxi, the #1 powerful being in the entire Dead Demon City. Lin Fan croaked out with a hoarse voice. Huh, #1 powerful being, and no. No. I, Yao Wuxi, am the #1 powerful being in the entire Xuanwang world. Yao Wuxi raised his head and said in a domineering manner. At the start, Lin Fan had thought that Yao Wuxi finally knew how to be humble. But when he heard the second half of the sentence, he realized that this guy was too damned arrogant. Gosh, you're really getting more and more shameless. Lin Fan replied exasperatedly. Just this character of his was enough for Lin Fan to admit defeat. This person, really, do you know how to talk? Why are all your words so nasty sounding? How should we settle this? You gave my third brother a slap. I don't think this is going to blow away that easily. How do you think we should settle this, third brother? Yao Wuxi asked. Sixth brother, he gave me a single slap. I want to give him 10. Yao Xingfeng replied. That sounds about fair. Yao Wuxi nodded his head. He then looked at Lin Fan. You've heard him. Return him 10 slaps and this matter shall be over. Ha. Lin Fan burst out laughing. Since you say that you're the #1 powerful being in the entire world, how about we fight then? Come at me if you've got what it takes. Lin Fan floated up into the void and headed off into the distance. HMPH. Who's afraid of whom? Since I'm pretty bored right now and it's hard to find entertainment these days, I shall play with you a little now that you have come knocking on my doorsteps yourself. Yao Wuxi was fearless as he followed tightly behind Lin Fan. In a wide open space, Yao Wuxi placed his hands behind his back. Make your move, I'm afraid that you might not get the chance to fight back after I strike out. Yao Wuxi commented. Yao Wuxi, you are not my opponent. I heard that you're really good at farting. Come, send one at me. I'll take it face on. Lin Fan was pretty interested in the might of Yao Wuxi's farts. Back when he wasn't all that strong, Lin Fan had developed a fear towards that fart. But right now, he was a divine celestial level 9 cultivation state being. He wanted to give it a shot indeed. HMPH. Big words. Yao Wuxi struck out instantly. However, he did not fart. In Yao Wuxi's eyes, a single fart of his could rattle the entire world, causing even deities and ghosts to cry over it. There was a high possibility that the other party might be killed by it. You are not my match. Lin Fan spread out his fingers and used a slight bit of force, slapping it out towards Yao Wuxi. Instantly, Yao Wuxi's heart froze up. An extremely repressive amount of power was slamming out towards him, one he couldn't fight against at all. If you refuse to fart, the only thing that awaits you is death. Lin Fan said out. At this moment, Yao Wuxi could feel himself being caged up in that wave of power. His body started shivering uncontrollably as well. Such a formidable strength. This opponent seemed quite ferocious. Seemed like he has no other choice but to accommodate the other party's wishes then. You've asked for this. After that, without any hesitation, Yao Wuxi channeled all the true energy within his body and sucked in a huge breath. He then aimed his butt straight at Lin Fan. Poot. N-O, vel, B, in dot C, ohm. A tremendous explosion boomed out into the world. Instantly, the entire heaven and earth shook intensely. The spirit chi within the void seemed as though it was being squeezed together. Lin Fan's face froze up. He could sense that this fart from Yao Wuxi was far from simple. This was something that shouldn't be existing within the Xuanwang world at all. Chapter 793, Scared to Death. Chapter 793, Scared to Death. Even after wandering around the ancient saint world for so long, Lin Fan had yet to discover what in the world was up with this special body type of Yao Wuxi. There were countless of races that possessed special abilities, for example, the self-destructing abilities of the Samsung race beings and the live broadcast abilities of the succubus race beings. However, Lin Fan hadn't bumped into anyone with a body type such as Yao Wuxi's. In the past, Yao Wuxi's cultivation state wasn't all that great. However, he could still knock out Lin Fan with a single fart. That was something extremely horrifying in Lin Fan's opinion. At this moment, Lin Fan's face was all focused right now. He wanted to analyze just what in the world was this fart of Yao Wuxi. The fart that was let out by Yao Wuxi exploded out into a green-colored mist. The mist was thick and relentless as it attacked out towards Lin Fan. This thick, dense green mist took on the form of a roaring dragon that coiled around the world. In fact, there was even a demon god that was howling out from within. Wherever it passed, the air seemed as though it was being corroded away. Good lad. Lin Fan spread out his hand and reached into the void and grabbed the thick mist on his hands directly. The putrid mist began eating at Lin Fan's palms relentlessly. Its might was stronger than any poison that could possibly be found in this world. Ding! Captured great venomous demon god. Lin Fan looked at the little green gigantic man that was rumbling within his palms right now and was startled. Great venomous demon god. This was the first time that Lin Fan was hearing of something like this. The amount of power that was generated by a single fart of Yao Wuxi was extraordinary. Anyone below the divine celestial level might actually find it really hard to defend against this. Even right now, this great venomous demon god was eating at Lin Fan's astral powers within his body. If it were any other ordinary powerful beings, they might have long been devoured by the great venomous demon god, before crumbling down under the might of Yao Wuxi's fart. Bravo! Lin Fan closed his hands gently, squeezing the great venomous demon god to bits instantly. Sick. The moment Yao Wuxi caught sight of this, he was scared shitless. To think that his ultimate move would have no effects on this man. This was the final trump card in Yao Wuxi's arsenal. But to think that it was taken down by this man with ease. Yao Wuxi was entirely dumbfounded right now. Who are you? There must be some sort of a misunderstanding between us. Yao Wuxi yelled out loudly and was starting to admit defeat instantly. Yao Wuxi didn't think that he would have many enemies. And right now, this other fella shouldn't be too vengeful over something as small as slapping his third brother, right? This is no misunderstanding. Looking at the state Yao Wuxi was in, it gave Lin Fan the idea of messing around with him a little. He did want to see just how this lad would react in a situation as such. Yao Wuxi gulped down his saliva. Since when had the Xuanwang world turned this sick? F***ck. Without hesitating, Yao Wuxi raised his bum immediately. Like a pile driver, he then started farting out rapidly. A series of great venomous demon gods rippled out. Wherever they passed by, they would let out a sizzling sound of corrosion. Even if it were the spirit chi of the heaven and earth, it was being corroded by these great venomous demon gods. Lin Fan had not expected that Yao Wuxi would actually have his special body type developed to such an extent over these past few years. If his cultivation state were to increase even further, how much more would these great venomous demon gods progress? This was something that Lin Fan was extremely curious about. Out of the 36 tricks, the best of them all are related to escaping. Without even thinking twice, Yao Wuxi started running straight away. Right now, he wanted to head back and pack up before bringing his entire family to escape with him. This guy who had popped out of nowhere was way too sick. Bam, bam. When Yao Wuxi caught sight of how his great venomous demon gods were squeezed into exploding one after another by that guy, he was scared stiff. Trying to escape, but you're not going to make it. Lin Fan sent out a heaven-encompassing palm that streaked across the sky and expanded out endlessly. No matter how quickly Yao Wuxi was running off, he couldn't escape the boundaries of the palm. Oh, my bloody hell. When Yao Wuxi raised his head and caught sight of that heaven-encompassing palm, he shuddered and bolted up immediately. Ha ha ha. Looking at the state Yao Wuxi was in right now, Lin Fan burst out laughing momentarily. Brother Yao, the stance you make while running does look really novel. It's no wonder you're the number one in the entire world, Lin Fan returned to his normal voice. At the same time, his face reverted back to its usual features. Yao Wuxi was hating in his heart. To think that he would be humiliated right now. But at this moment, Yao Wuxi suddenly realized that this voice was really familiar. When he turned his head over, he came to a stop in his tracks. That face was all too familiar for Yao Wuxi. Holy FCK, Brother Lin. When Yao Wuxi caught sight of Lin Fan, he could not help but cuss out, Brother Lin. When did you return? Gosh, aren't you just bloody scaring me now? Brother Yao, I haven't been back for long. And since I've missed you, I came looking for you. I've been meaning to see just how far you've gotten in the past few years with your strength. To think that you would have turned this strong. Lin Fan said. Brother Lin, am I supposed to be taking what you've just said as an ironic remark? Yao Wuxi was no longer running at this moment. However, he was looking entirely exasperated. It was true that his strength had grown pretty much over the past few years. With that, his confidence had skyrocketed as well. But to think that he couldn't even land a single blow in front of Lin Fan. November LBJNN. How could it be ironic? Just that move alone was enough for you to be the #1 powerful being in the entire Xuanwang world. This was truly something that Lin Fan meant from the bottom of his heart. Even if it were Mie Changqi, he wouldn't be able to deal with that single move from now. This wasn't a power that could stay restricted in the Xuanwang world any longer. Following the increase in Yao Wuxi's strength, this special body type was slowly being uncovered as well. As such, the amount of power it could release was incomparably strong. Now, that sounds about right. No, I was given one hell of a shock by you just now, such that even my little heart was almost ready to jump right out of my throat. Brother Lin, you've got to make up for it. Yao Wuxi came before Lin Fan's face saying. Indeed, Yao Wuxi was truly frightened just now. In fact, he even had an impulse to just kneel down and beg for mercy on the spot. It was thankful that he had managed to hold it back in. If Brother Lin were to find out about that, he would definitely laugh till all his teeth started dropping out. Haha, let's go. It's been many years since we've last met. Let's go for a drink and discuss some stuff. Lin Fan said. Sure, no one shall return without being drunk tonight. In a room inside an inn. Brother Lin, is everything you've said for real? Yao Wuxi's face was shocked right now. He could not believe that the news brought forth by Brother Lin would be so explosive. Yes, therefore, the reason for my return this time around is to group up the masses and unite them. At the end of the day, the power of me alone is still quite lacking. Lin Fan replied. To think that the upper world would be like this. I had initially thought that it would be a paradise on earth. Yao Wuxi lamented. Paradise on earth? Ha, it's just pure hell. Up there, if you aren't careful, you might just find yourself dying without a burial ground at any given day. Brother Lin, according to your intentions, what should we do then? Yao Wuxi asked. Raise your powers and grow stronger. Right now, the Xuanwang world is being sealed up, and the path to eternity remains elusive. Basically, we're isolated from it. The only way for us to raise our cultivation states to the next level is by opening the barrier. Otherwise, by the time the calamity reaches us, we would just be pieces of fish meat in the hands of the ancient race beings for them to slaughter indiscriminately. For his return this time around, Lin Fan was prepared to open up the barrier and allow everyone to start cultivating completely. Even though a greater celestial cultivation state being was strong in the Xuanwang world, this was an extremely puny existence in the ancient saint world. Chapter 794, Resentful. Chapter 794, Resentful. Yao Wuxi had a dream to save the entire world. Therefore, without even thinking twice, he got himself mixed in with Lin Fan. To put it simply in Yao Wuxi's words, the commoners are now living in deep waters of treacheries. How can I put myself out of their affairs? I have to use both my hands to bring them to salvation. Lin Fan was thoroughly moved by the words of Yao Wuxi. This was the true bloody symbol of a human with ambitions. A few days later, the masses gathered at Glory Sect. This time around, Glory Sect has taken the initiative to invite all the Grand Masters of the major sects over. We have spoken to them quite a bit about it. But, we do not know what they will make out of it. Since Yan Hongyu had come forth personally, it was natural that no one would refuse him. However, how those people of the other major sects thought about it was still another issue entirely. Even Yan Hongyu did not have any idea how it would turn out. I'm sure they'll agree to it. Lin Fan chuckled, unbothered in the least bit. Right now, all of the major sects are within our lobby. Whether or not they will be convinced is all up to you now. Yan Hongyu replied. At this moment within the outer lobby, all the Grand Masters and Elders of the major sects were gathered. Glory Sect had made their rounds around to their sects to persuade them. And the issue they were persuading them about was something entirely unbelievable. They could not believe how the upper world could be like this. This must be a delusion. Grandmaster Wang, what do you think about this matter? Grandmaster Long was in a dilemma right now. What Yan Hongyu had said was pretty frightening. However, he did not know if Yan Hongyu was just scaring them on purpose. Grandmaster Wang's face was calm without a single shred of emotion, go with the flow. The moment Grandmaster Long heard this, he blew up, Grandmaster Wang. Can't you have some opinion of your own? Grandmaster Long, how can you say that? How is going with the flow an implication of me not having my own opinion? The collective wishes of the masses are something not to be disobeyed. Grandmaster Wang replied. Grandmaster Long looked at Grandmaster Wang. For a moment or so, he was really at a loss for a reply. He then went on to check out on the views of the other Grandmasters. This was a big matter here. Could sects even be considered as sects if they did not pit themselves against one another? Was there any meaning to life anymore? Guys, take a look. The expression of Grandmaster Shin is looking a little off. He's flushed red right now. Could it be constipation? Some of the Grandmasters whispered amongst themselves worriedly. But when Shin Feng looked over, all of their expressions reverted back to normal as though nothing had happened at all. At this moment, Shin Feng was exceptionally emotional. His brother Lin had returned. However, he was a little upset as well. To think that he wouldn't be the first person to be visited by his brother Lin's return. Damn it. However, after 5 years of separation, Shin Feng was still unable to contain the excitement in his heart nevertheless. No. As for the topic of discussion amongst the other Grandmasters, Shin Feng had heard it extremely clearly. However, he did not want to stoop down to their level. These were idle and bored people who would gossip all day and night. They were even more feminine than women. However, he couldn't blame these Grandmasters either. Now that their cultivation states had reached its peak, there was nothing else for them to do. They would just skive off from day to day or bring their disciples to head out for fights with the other sects. In a simple phrase, they're having a way too easy life thanks to the peace in the world. My gratitude to everyone for arriving at Glory Sect. At this moment, Yan Hongyu walked in briskly. Even though Zhang Henshin was the Grandmaster right now, he was still young nevertheless. Yan Hongyu was worried that he might not be able to maintain control over these people. Hence, he came forth personally. Brother Feng, it's been a long time. Lin Fan had long since felt an extremely strong aura of resentment. And evidently, the source of the resentment was coming off from Shin Feng. But when he thought about it, it was only right that Shin Feng would feel resentful, since Lin Fan did not look for him upon his return. When Shin Feng caught sight of Lin Fan, he could not help but walk up and give him a hug. Brother Lin, you have finally made it back. At this moment, all the Grandmasters started speaking in hushed whispers once more. Guys, look at Shin Feng's face right now. That expression he's giving off. The emotions that are coming off from the side of his eyes. Something's not right. Now that you mention it. Brother Feng couldn't swing that way, right? It's hard to say, but everyone, please lower your volume. We're all Grandmasters of major sects. We've got to help him retain some face. As for all these Grandmasters who are just idling about from day to day, any piece of gossip they pick up could go on for at least an entire year. And this was especially the case if the gossip was about Jushao sect. The amount of emotions that were overflowing were incredible. Brother Feng, please forgive me. It's been quite the rush since I've returned this time around, with too many things to handle. Hence, I couldn't make it over to Jushao sect. Lin Fan said. It's nothing. As your brother, I can understand. It's just that I've heard that there's something big that's going on in the upper world, causing your return this time around. I wonder what it is. Even though Shin Feng looked as though everything was fine on the surface, he was still filled with a stomach of indignance. Lin Fan nodded his head and then looked at the masses. Everyone, I am Lin Fan. The name of the upper world is the ancient saint world. Within there, the ancient race oppresses the beings of the thousands of races. The matter is critical right now. As for the actual situation, I would implore you guys to take a look for yourselves. Lin Fan used his mind to project out everything that had happened within the ancient saint world with his powers, broadcasting it in the air. A series of images flashed out. Every single thing that Lin Fan had seen and heard about was included within. All the Grandmasters of the major sects watched intently. Aya, this weird-looking living being is so damn strong. Those ancient race beings are devouring the living beings live. Accursed. All of the Grandmasters were thoroughly engrossed within the images right now and let out all sorts of expressions. Lin Fan was too lazy to say more. Something like this should be broadcasted directly with images and have them feel with their hearts. That would triumph over him using 1,000 words to explain. Time passed by the seconds and minutes. All of the Grand Masters had sunken deep inside. This was the same for Yan Hongyu and the others. They had not expected that the ancient saint world would be this dangerous. Lin Fan swept his robes and the screen disappeared. What do you think, everyone? Rather than waiting for death, we might stand a chance of living if we give it a shot. The utmost beings of the ancient race are not the scary ones. The scary one is that heaven's will, Lin Fan said. Back in the past, Lin Fan had thought that the ancient saint world would be saved once he killed all the utmost beings. But right now, it didn't seem like that was the case. The true enemy was that heaven's will. The heaven's will of the ancient scient world was 100,000 times scarier than the utmost beings. Even though Lin Fan was strong alone, he couldn't handle being ganged up either. What do you guys think about it? Lin Fan asked. Everyone looked at one another, as though they were waiting for something. This is a really grave matter. That's right, it's far too scary. To think that we wouldn't even be a match for a single ancient race soldier. Brother Lin, we'll do however you propose. The Jushao sect will always be on your side. Xin Feng replied. The Xuanjian sect as well. Zhan Yongxian replied as well. For Zhan Yongxian, if she didn't stand on the side of her hubby, was she to go against him? Grandmaster Wang bore the idea of just riding with the flow and going along with the masses. Since the two major sects had expressed their intentions right now, he naturally agreed along with it. The other grandmasters pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement as well. Since that's the case, we'll form an alliance then. Rather than being split up like sand, it'd be best for us to stand together as a single alliance against the ancient race. Lin Fan remarked. Yes, that makes sense. Given the current situation, we would die if we don't form an alliance. I agree, I second that. Everyone, in order to prevent accusations of me, Lin Fan, monopolizing control, the leader of the alliance can be chosen from all of your sects. Lin Fan continued. No, it's all right, that won't be needed, we trust Glory Sect. That's right, we believe that under your leadership, we will definitely be able to attain victory. About this selection of a leader for the alliance, let's just forget about that. You've been in the ancient saint world for such a long time now. You're definitely more familiar with it than any one of us. Naturally, you should be the leader. When the Grand Masters of the major sect heard that a leader was going to be chosen from one of them, it was only natural for them to blow up. They did not want a hand in a job so dangerous. As for all of them, their thoughts were that even if the skies were to topple over, there would be a powerful being watching over them. At the end of the day, they would just whack anything they were ordered to. As for the position of the leader, one might as well forget that. The mere thought of it was dangerous enough. Lin Fan sighed out, thinking back about the image that he had just displayed, it just felt wrong. Before even going to the ancient saint world, he had already given them such a huge shock. This was quite the sin as well. Chapter 795, Incredible Purpose of the Body Type. Chapter 795, Incredible Purpose of the Body Type. The sects who had attended this time around were all the strongest major sects in the entire Xuanwang world. As long as they were in agreement, the minor sects would not have any opinions about it. As for Lin Fan, even though the strength of these disciples might be pretty weak, this was where the foundation made a difference. There was no way the boundless human race wouldn't be able to produce any sort of supremely peerless geniuses. And right now, Lin Fan was laying down his plans. The special body type that was produced by Wang Xiaoming was a whip of motivation for all the different geniuses out there. And speaking of Wang Xiaoming, Lin Fan truly did not know how that lad was doing right now. With a single thought of his, Lin Fan could sense everything. The image of Wang Xiaoming appeared within Lin Fan's mind immediately. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming was walking through a luscious patch of forest while humming a melodious tune. He was initially not used to getting out of the Wang family. But, those happy days were gone in a flash. That was something that had him feeling sad. But after heading out, Wang Xiaoming was starting to realize what a wondrous feeling it was to head out and wander in the pugilistic world. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming was startled. He had noticed some commotion happening up ahead. Someone like Wang Xiaoming, who was only interested in his life and nothing else, wouldn't dare to act brazenly before making clear of the situation. He snuck his way upwards stealthily and hid behind a huge tree. Using some sleazy gaze, he checked out what was happening in front. A man and woman behaving sneakily in a small luscious patch of forest. It's obvious that they're up to no good. However, that chick does look pretty decent. It's just that the man beside her is really grotesquely ugly. This is a complete example of how a perfect flower is wasted on a piece of cow dung. Wang Xiaoming was evidently enraged right now. To think that a beautifully gorgeous man such as himself would be leading a dreary life all alone outside right now, and yet, an ugly guy like that had a chick accompanying him. This didn't make any sense at all. Junior brother, if not for you this time around, it would have definitely been tough for us to make it out of Zon Lai's hands. The elegant face of that girl bore a look of worry. They had just been through a calamity earlier on. HMPH. To think that he would lose all reason and attempt to kill us all over a treasure. The young man wasn't all that old. However, his face was resolute as his eyes shone with a shining gleam. Even though this secret ground was extremely treacherous, there were many benefits to be gained out of it. This was especially the case now that they had obtained a bottle of precious elixirs. These elixirs were none other than the legendary bone cleansing pills that could cleanse one's bodies. As long as one were to consume it, they would be able to repair any unspeakable flaws they had and could raise their potential towards martial arts as well. Yu Fei checked out his surroundings carefully. Even if it were a single rustle of the leaves, he wouldn't miss it at all. Now that he was carrying a precious treasure with him, Yu Fei was naturally extremely tense. Senior sister, we'll share this half each. The bone cleansing pills possess an incredible effect. As long as we were to consume it, it would definitely be a great boon for our martial arts cultivation in the future. Yu Fei commented. Yes, once we get back to the sect, we must definitely report on Zon Lai's sins to them. His senior sister said in an infuriated manner. If not for her junior brother's mystifying methods to save them, they would have long died in the hands of Zon Lai. However, there was something she was curious about. She had realized that the skills used by her junior brother were not skills of their sect. Seemed like he must have had some other form of encounters out there. Oh, so that's the reason. So, you're afraid of being hunted down since you've got a precious treasure. Hee, not bad, not bad. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming harbored a thought. Treasures belong to the powerful. Since he was bumping into it right now, there was no way he could let it go just like that. Based on Wang Xiaoming's initial estimate, the cultivation states of these two weren't higher than his. He had a great amount of confidence towards this. Holy FCK, are these two fellas trying to use up the treasure right now? Looking at the situation right now, Wang Xiaoming realized he could not wait any longer. If a treasure as such were to be used, he would be taking in a huge loss. Pishu, N-O-V-E in .C Ohm. Instantly, Wang Xiaoming turned into a long streak of light and assaulted both of them. Your treasure belongs to me. Wang Xiaoming roared out. Senior sister, watch out. Yu Fei's face changed as he flipped around instantly. They had just been through a big fight with Zon Lai, and were fraught with injuries. Now that someone was appearing out of nowhere once more, they felt entirely rattled. Monkey steals peaches. This was a skill that Wang Xiaoming was extremely familiar with. This was the family technique of the Wang family. In fact, even his uncle Lin would make use of this skill. There was no way Wang Xiaoming wouldn't cultivate a skill as such. Bam! With a pretty amazing speed, Wang Xiaoming whacked out with that single move with an extraordinary momentum. The face of Yu Fei froze up as he used his astral chi to protect his body, thinking that he could defend against this with it. However, it proved to be nothing more than a dream of his. Bam! Arg hhhhhhhhhhhhhh. A tragic cry rang out into the world. Yu Fei's face turned frightfully pale instantly. He was filled with a face of disbelief. To think that that single hand would be able to bypass his astral chi. Hee, feels good, doesn't it? Wang Xiaoming's body appeared in a flash. He looked at the miserable expression on Yu Fei's face and burst out laughing. Who are you? Yu Fei had not expected to be defeated this quickly. That single move of the other party had rendered him helpless instantly. However, this move of Wang Xiaoming wasn't even at its pinnacle just yet. If he were to have Lin Fan's level of mastery, Yu Fei would definitely have long been crippled on the ground by now. Wang Xiaoming sniggered out and declared in a tyrannical manner, "All right, both of you, listen up. I am the great young master of the Wang family. Hand over that treasure you mentioned earlier to your young master here. Junior brother, are you all right?" The senior sister looked at Yu Fei and could not help but feel a bubbling worry rising in her heart. She then looked at Wang Xiaoming warily. She had not expected that right after escaping from the grasp of Zon Lai, she would meet with yet another greedy person. I'm fine. Yu Fei waved it off. However, that frightfully pale face of his didn't seem all that comforting. Little b*tch. This junior brother of yours looks so trashy. I don't think he's going to be able to protect you properly. How about following your young master here? Wang Xiaoming looked at the chick lustfully. Being able to flirt with her through words brought about a great satisfaction to his heart. Damn it! Yu Fei roared out. His body flashed out and he struck out at Wang Xiaoming. Hee, even though you're pretty decent in strength, there's still a world apart between our cultivation states. That is a gap you cannot hope to bridge. Since you don't know what's good for you, then you can't blame your young master here for this. Wang Xiaoming jerked out furiously. His hands were twisting and turning like a dragon right now. When he stretched out his hand, there was even a mysterious power within it. Arg, it hurts. Let loose. The sorrowful wails of Yu Fei rang out as his face was flushed in shades of white and green. It looked extremely terrible. Hee, that's really nothing, To think that while you would look so muscular and tall, you would possess something so small. Wang Xiaoming laughed out loudly. His hand was still gripping on tightly, without any intention of letting go at all. Strengthen. Wang Xiaoming raised his power level. With that, Yu Fei yelped out in pain once more. Junior brother, little b*tch. You had better not come over. Otherwise, that area of yours is going to have a tragedy befalling on it as well. Wang Xiaoming sniggered out sinisterly as he checked out the boobs of the chick intently. You, damn it, don't you dare insult my senior sister. Yu Fei growled out menacingly. However, the pain that was cruising through him right now left him unable to fight back at all. Kid, cut the crap. You can't even save yourself right now, and yet you're worrying about your senior sister. You had better take care of yourself first. Wang Xiaoming chuckled out and snatched that bottle of elixirs over. Stomp. Wang Xiaoming stamped down on Yu Fei with a single foot and burst out laughing wildly. Ha, damn it. The face of Yu Fei, who was being trampled over by Wang Xiaoming, was looking ever more malevolent by the second. The humiliation of being stepped on by someone was something that Yu Fei had never once experienced before. Stop damning me, kid, you're far too weak. This is the outcome of anyone who would end up in the hands of your young master. Wang Xiaoming laughed insanely. But at this very moment, there was something that Wang Xiaoming did not know. The more arrogant he was, the more of this unusual aura was emitted by his body. This aura was formless and tasteless. However, when it floated out around Yu Fei, it was absorbed in readily. Chapter 796, Everything Makes Sense Now. Chapter 796, Everything Makes Sense Now. Hee. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming was looking gleeful as he cast his sights on the senior sister at the side. He scooped up his hands, looking exceptionally creepy right now. Don't come over. Junior brother, save me. The face of the senior sister was pale right now. She had not expected that not only was this person greedy, he was also lustful towards her. Chick, don't you worry now. Your young master here will definitely not do anything much to you. Your young master is a man who knows how to cherish beauties. Wang Xiaoming sniggered out eerily. You dog's tea, don't you dare touch my senior sister. Yu Fei roared out. He hadn't expected that this degenerate would try to take advantage of his senior sister. Instantly, he felt a burning rage surge within his heart. He wanted to fight with his life against this guy. N-O-V-E-N.C-O-M. Damn it, it's all my fault that I'm too weak. Otherwise, how would something as such happen? Power. I want power. I, Yu Fei, have already reached a cultivation state in just 4 months where mere commoners wouldn't be able to reach in their entire lifetimes. If only I could get 2 more months, I would be able to whack the sh*t out of this b****. Yu Fei was indignant right now. He was the slave of a big family. However, in order to accompany his young master, he followed him to join a sect. Upon arriving at the sect, Yu Fei discovered that he had a natural familiarity towards all the skills that he could see. It was as though all of these skills were things that he had once cultivated before. In fact, when he looked at the average skills, he could even replicate their moves almost instantly. With his heaven-defying ability, Yu Fei's speed of cultivation was exceptionally fast. He soon became an existence that most mere commoners would look up to. From there on, he was elevated from the status of a slave into one of the disciples of the sect. Yu Fei gripped his hands tightly and pounded the ground, as those bloodshot eyes of his glared at Wang Xiaoming with a devastating hatred. His throat even started letting out a sound of growling like that of a wild beast. The nearer this degenerate got to his senior sister, the more Yu Fei felt as though his heart was about to break down. He wanted to go all out against the degenerate. However, his body was afflicted by the blows dealt by the other party. The pain in his groin area was especially unbearable. One should depend on oneself rather than others. It was this very ideology that Yu Fei had always believed in. This was especially the moment for him to believe in it. Degenerate, if you dare to touch my senior sister, I, Yu Fei, swear upon my name that I will make sure I tear your corpse up into shreds. Yu Fei bellowed out. Hee hee, lad, don't bear such hatred towards me now. Your young master here is not someone like that. However, since your senior sister here looks pretty decent, your young master will just toy with her a little here and there. I will definitely not go overboard, okay. Wang Xiaoming chuckled out. Lin Fan, who had been observing Wang Xiaoming, found himself speechless at this very scene. This lad was really quite the troublemaker. Even though this lad would definitely not do something overly savage, his way of toying would definitely include a few light spankings on the buttocks and some light patting of her cheeks. That's for sure. If this were to carry on, it was hard to say that the Yu Fei lad wouldn't veer down the path of evil because of it. Seemed like it was truly a wise choice for him to have the heavens will keep an eye on Wang Xiaoming from time to time. Just as Lin Fan was prepared to have the heavens will strike down with a thunderbolt, he paused suddenly. This is. Lin Fan's eyes sparkled. He had suddenly realized that Wang Xiaoming's body was giving off a strange aura. This aura was extremely imperceptible. If one hadn't been observing keenly, they wouldn't be able to tell at all. Since Lin Fan was someone who had fused with the heavens will of the Xuanwang world, every single mysterious thing, such as the fortunes of the world, could not escape the eyes of Lin Fan at all. Arg! All of a sudden, a weird phenomenon broke out. With a maddened roar, the aura of Yu Fei suddenly rocketed up. That single roar was earth-shattering and rattled one's hearts. Degenerate, go to hell. At this moment, Yu Fei suddenly bolted out towards Wang Xiaoming with his fist through a weird path. It was as though he was suddenly filled with power. Lad, your strength is way too. Wang Xiaoming had wanted to say something when he noticed that there was something wrong with this fist now. He had a feeling that he wouldn't be able to block this. Bam! How could this be? This punch of power unfurled before Wang Xiaoming as he tried using both his hands to defend. However, just like a bullet, he was sent bolting off in a whiz. The bone-cleansing pills in his hands flew up into the sky as well. Turning around swiftly, Yu Fei caught the bone-cleansing pills in his hands. Senior sister, let's go. At this moment, Yu Fei had just burst forth a power so tremendous that even he himself was shocked by it. However, this was no time for him to be startled as he immediately grabbed his senior sister and left this place instantly. You dog's tea, you had better wait. I, Yu Fei, will definitely kill you one day before I'm dead. I'll tear your body apart. FCK, he can even run like that. Wang Xiaoming stood up and patted his clothes. When he raised his head, he realized that his prey had long disappeared. Interesting. This is interesting indeed. Lin Fan was taken aback. He hadn't expected that there would be a change as such. Naturally, he could tell that this Yu Fei's cultivation state wasn't all that high, because it hadn't been long since he started cultivating. But, to think that he would be able to escape from Wang Xiaoming's grasp. And the power of that fist that was sent out in the last moment was something that went beyond Yu Fei's very own capabilities. Haha, I get it now, I finally understand. After pondering for a moment, Lin Fan reared his head into the skies and burst out laughing. He had finally understood what all of this were about. Wang Xiaoming had the eternally hated body of the destined child. Therefore, all the people he would meet with were the destined children of the world. And at these critical moments, Wang Xiaoming's special body type would activate, allowing his opponents to transcend his very own powers. In the eyes of Yu Fei, Wang Xiaoming was the final boss that would accompany him for life. Even though Wang Xiaoming's strength was much stronger than Yu Fei, he would definitely not be able to kill Yu Fei no matter what. And at the very last moment, Wang Xiaoming would then be killed by Yu Fei, who would then grow into a supremely unparalleled powerful being. If it's really as I have guessed, then things would really get fun. Lin Fan wasn't too certain about the facts right now, but in order to verify his hypothesis, he would have to persevere down this path. Multiple days later, Wang Xiaoming bumped into another person once again. This time around, the person's cultivation state was way higher than Wang Xiaoming's. At the start, Lin Fan thought that Wang Xiaoming would definitely be walloped to a dog by the other party. But surprisingly, Wang Xiaoming had not only escaped, he even FCKED the other guy up big time. The embarrassment of the other party turned into anger as he was extremely frustrated. He swore that he would definitely kill Wang Xiaoming in his lifetime. Seems like my guess was right. Everyone Wang Xiaoming meets, be it weaklings or powerful beings, they would definitely bear a deep hatred towards him and take him as the foe of a lifetime. A few days later, Wang Xiaoming bumped into Yu Fei once more. This time around, Yu Fei made it out all the same, and had even caused Wang Xiaoming to lose quite a number of objects. Seems like that's really the case. So, all of these so-called destined children are grown and fed by people like Wang Xiaoming. Lin Fan had already proven the theory in his heart. However, he felt pretty sad for Wang Xiaoming's life. This special body type could be said to be both sick and sad. To put it simply, Wang Xiaoming would always be the whetstone for somebody out there. And when the knife was finally sharp enough from being honed, it would mean that Wang Xiaoming's death would have arrived as well. However, none of that mattered. As long as Lin Fan was around, he would never ever let Wang Xiaoming die. At this moment, Wang Xiaoming did not feel anything different or off. All he felt was that life was simply way too interesting. When he had first left the Wang family, he was a little unhappy. But after experiencing everything, he could not help but feel his spirits being lifted. Interesting. Life was way too interesting right now. Chapter 797. This is A Seal. Chapter 797. This is A Seal. Hubby, now that all the major sects have already agreed to form an alliance, when are we heading up to the ancient saint world? Zhan Yongxian laid down in Lin Fan's embrace and asked softly. Lin Fan looked at his lover in his arms and smiled out gently, soon. I've got one last thing to finish up. There are countless powerful beings within the Xuanwang world. Some of them had their cultivation states suppressed at the greater celestial cultivation state for the longest time now. Once the barrier opens up, everything will come to fruition, and they will be able to reach a higher cultivation state. Zhan Yongxian remarked. Yes, all of those old fogies are almost unable to bear it any longer. In the past, there was no hope at all towards eternity. Once one reaches the greater celestial cultivation state, one would no longer have any motivation to go on. But, once this barrier is removed, there is no longer an end to the cultivation state. That should be the time for the true uprising of the human race from the Xuanwang world. Lin Fan was full of confidence. While he knew that the human race did not have connate gifts, such as some of the beings of the thousands of races, the human race possessed an unlimited amount of potential. They could turn all the impossibilities into possibilities. Kuk-kaku, Chicky laid by Lin Fan's side and crowed in a low voice a few times. Those three chicklings of his followed suit. Oh, right, Chicky, I think I seem to have found some of your race folks up in the ancient saint world. Who knows, we might be able to get some news about your parentage. Lin Fan commented. Cuck, Chicky didn't even raise his head at all. Evidently, he couldn't be bothered. For Chicky, the moment he was born, the first person he had ever seen was Lin Fan. And after all these years, he had enjoyed everything heartlessly as well. As for who his parents were, it didn't matter to Chicky at all. You bloody chicken, couldn't you give me some sort of a reaction? Why do you look so sullen? Lin Fan was sensing a feeling of reminiscence that was coming forth from Chicky's eyes. Kuk-kaku, Chicky stood up and flapped his wings. Combing his feathers, he looked over into the distance. Stretching his wings, he flew out into the distance. What's up with Chicky, wifey, should we go take a look? Lin Fan asked. Yes, Zhan Yongxian nodded her head. Ever since the nameless peak of glory sect had turned into Lin Fan's Saint Devil sect, it had never changed once. Even after those two disciples of his set out to create their own sects, glory sect did not take back the nameless peak. At a part of nameless peak, Chicky stood before a grave tablet and was silent. He then stretched out his wing and fondled the tablet gently. The three chicklings of Chicky stood there without moving at all as well. When Lin Fan stood forth and checked it out, his expression turned strange. This was a bloody subversion of his three fundamental values of the world, morals, and life itself. All he saw on that grave tablet was a few big words etched out. Grave of beloved wife. And O, vel, b, in c, om. Lin Fan knew that these three chicklings were born from Chicky and a domestic fowl. However, he hadn't expected that Chicky would truly take the domestic fowl as the love of his life. All living things in the world had a soul in them. Back when Chicky was younger, he was extremely lustful. To think that after a few years, Chicky would turn so dedicated. Chicky, to think that you've changed this much. If I hadn't seen this for myself, I might have found it hard to believe. Lin Fan lamented. Kuk-kaku, Chicky tossed his head before nodding silently as though he was acknowledging Lin Fan's words. Chicky was a member of one of the top 10 old ancient beast races, with an extremely noble bloodline. And the fact that an ordinary domestic fowl such as this could bear three chicklings for Chicky was indeed something to be considered as a miracle. And at this very moment, from out of nowhere, a wild chicken appeared. This wild chicken jumped from one end to another before extending her wings, strutting herself off flamboyantly. The moment Chicky heard this, he spun around and was attracted over instantly. Cuckoo! Chicky flapped his wings furiously. This was a stark change from his behavior earlier on. At this moment, Lin Fan was stunned. Bloody hell, he was just praising Chicky for being dedicated moments earlier. Who would have thought that before he even turned his damned A*S, he would already be seduced by a hen? Cuckoo! Chicky spread out his wings widely. It was hard to bear with the thirst right now. He wanted to pin down that beautiful hen at his first chance. Hoot hoot! Just at this moment, a red streak of light flashed out. From God knows where, Chicken Fat had suddenly moved that fat body of his around furiously and flew to a leap. Extending his claw, he used a heaven-crippling kick and struck right at that hen. Bam! Chicken Fat shrugged his body and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the hen being kicked away to the boundaries of the world. He then turned around and looked at Chicky. Koo. The meaning was clear. This was a protest. The three chicklings of Chicky were protesting about how their chicken dad was being seduced so casually, letting down their chicken mum. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Lin Fan burst out laughing. It was as though he had just witnessed the funniest thing that had ever happened in this world. Cuckoo. Chicky was extremely sad and had a dejected face. He then came before the tablet and started bawling out. It was as though he felt restricted with his life choices right now. Yunxian, let us leave. Seems like Chicky has people watching over him now. Lin Fan chuckled out. What about you? If there's no one watching over you, would you do anything wrong? Zan Yunxian asked back cheekily. How can that be? I'm not Chicky, Lin Fan explained immediately to clear up his name. However, the thought of the Fire Water Empress gave Lin Fan an extremely big headache. If the Fire Water Empress were to appear from here on forth and bump into him, what was he to do? But as the saying went, if a soldier comes, the general will defend against him. If the water comes, the mud will stop it. By the time they got to it, there would naturally be a way to solve the issue by then. Like pet, like master. To explain is to cover up. You had better not cover up, hubby. Zan Yunxian smirked. Oh, you're good now. Seems like you don't know just how powerful your hubby is now, Seems like as your hubby, I've got to drag you into the woods and give you a good round of training. No. A few days later, Lin Fan floated gently in the void of the Xuanwang world. Heaven's will, is there any requirement for cultivating the Xuanwang world? Lin Fan placed his hands behind his back, all ready to prepare for his final step. The only idea Lin Fan had right now was to cultivate the Xuanwang world within his paradise and fuse it into his inner world. Master, if you wish to cultivate the Xuanwang world and fuse it into your inner world, it will be no simple task. You must have the power to be able to shoulder the entire will of the Xuanwang world. Otherwise, even if you manage to cultivate it, you will be crushed to death with the entire Xuanwang world's will. But with my help, you won't have to think about it so much. The heavens will of the Xuanwang world replied. Alright, that's good to hear. As long as I can cultivate it, the heavens will of the ancient saint world can dream on about eating up the Xuanwang world even on the day the infinite worlds open up. Ever since he returned to the Xuanwang world, Lin Fan's idea had always been to cultivate it together with him as one. From there on forth, he would bear the entire burden of the Xuanwang world. This was something that no one in the infinite worlds had ever succeeded in doing. That was because the heavens will of the infinite worlds were not to be infiltrated. They would definitely not sit by idly and have their world cultivated by someone. Let's go. Lin Fan brought the heavens will with him and dove down deep into an abyss beneath the ground. This was where the core of the world laid. This was the source of Xuanwang world's powers, as well as the will of Xuanwang world. When Lin Fan arrived at the core of the Xuanwang world, he gave off a startled look. He was completely shocked by everything he was seeing before him right now. Within a vacuous space, there was a core that gave off a scorching light, as though a gigantic sun was burning right in the center of it. And the thing that had Lin Fan truly astonished was that there were metal chains coiled around it. These metal chains were like gigantic dragons that were swimming around the core of the world. Heavens will, what is this? Lin Fan asked. This is a seal. Looking at these chains, the heavens will replied pensively. Chapter 798, Cultivating a Star. Chapter 798, Cultivating a Star. Seal. Lin Fan had truly not expected that this would be a seal. He then looked at the heavens will in astonishment. Why is there a seal on the Xuanwang world? Master, that is something I have no idea about either. The moment I came into existence, this seal was already present. Oh, I see, so that's the way things are. Lin Fan felt a little rattled in his heart. He was pretty curious as well, wondering what purpose this seal served. And how could the Xuanwang world be sealed up? Seal. Well, time to open up the seal and see if there are any changes. Lin Fan roared out and slapped out with both his palms. Instantly, a mysterious energy burst forth from Lin Fan. Remove the seal. All over the world. Shing. All of a sudden, the void vibrated. The chains that were revolving around the core let out a bedazzling gleam. A power that caused even Lin Fan to shiver erupted out within the world. Bam! When the power collided with Lin Fan's palms, he was sent knocking backward instantly. He let out a startled look. This was a power that he had never once seen before. It seemed as though it was boundless and infinite. Bam! As though it was a gigantic dragon that was about to devour the entire world, the power suddenly unfurled out toward Lin Fan. Lin Fan's face changed as he spun around and slapped out towards it once more. To think that even with his strength as a divine celestial level 9 cultivation state being, he would be sent flying by this mysterious power. Not only that, the power did not dissipate at all, and seemed as though it wanted to crush Lin Fan entirely. This power is trying to kill me. Lin Fan's face drained of color. Without thinking twice, he let forth an explosion from between his 5 fingers, which transformed into a surge of power that struck out at the oncoming power of the seal. Bam! An extremely loud explosion reverberated out, and Lin Fan's figure stumbled backward. Such a strong power. It was only through the destruction of 5 of his fingers that Lin Fan had managed to hold back against the power. The mythical parasol tree within his body jerked gently as a strong life force whirled out. The 5 fingers which were blown up were healed up good as new once more. Master, this seal is really strong, as though it's exerting control over the Xuanwang world. However, unless you were to provoke it directly, cultivating the Xuanwang world shouldn't be an issue. The Heavens will commented. Yes, this is really bizarre indeed. To think that even the strength I wield right now would do nothing to the seal at all. Seems like there are truly many issues with the Xuanwang world. Lin Fan replied. He hadn't expected that there would be something as mysterious as such within the Xuanwang world. And to think that he hadn't discovered it at all. But, if he had discovered this earlier on, given his curiosity, he might have been killed by this thing already. Heavens will, start cultivating then. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Lin Fan was all prepared for this as he sent out his personal will ferociously. His will formed thin threads that permeated through the void and wrapped themselves around the core. The Heavens will floated gently above the core with a calm expression. Spreading out his arms, a series of ripples akin to those on a water surface spread out. I, as the Heavens will, shall give you a body. Cultivate, fuse. Now that he had the help of the Heavens will, it was naturally extremely simple for him to cultivate the Xuanwang world. Instantly, Lin Fan could feel a power descending down the sky from within the unknowns, and being transmitted into his body. This power was extremely mysterious. It possessed millions of living beings and a countless amount of wills within it. These wills were vast as the mountains. Instantly, they crushed down on Lin Fan's body. Lin Fan's face changed. The will of the Xuanwang world contained everything within the Xuanwang world. If any mere person wanted to cultivate the entire Xuanwang world, they would undoubtedly just be seeking death. Tao of the paradise, carry forth all beings. Lin Fan hollered out. With a single motion, he brought forth the paradise within his body. Master, what are you trying to do? All the skill and weapon spirits within Lin Fan's paradise asked curiously. Don't waste time talking. I'm now in the midst of cultivating the Xuanwang world. Help me and share the burden. Lin Fan bellowed out. Yes, all of the living beings did not have to think twice. They naturally knew what was happening right now. Bravo. To think that we're going to cultivate an entire world. Haha, our master is not our master for nothing. To think that he would even dare to attempt such bold ideas. At this moment, the air around Lin Fan vibrated intensely as his powers rumbled. His momentum was torrential. This was a sign that his powers had been utilized to a certain extent. Looking at the current status of Lin Fan, even the Heavens will could not help but feel astonished. He knew that Lin Fan was strong. But, to think that he would be this strong. At this moment, vortices appeared behind Lin Fan one after another. These vortices were spinning really intensely. Everything within the world seemed to have been sucked in by it. Cultivation of all beings. A single world of paradise. Devour. Lin Fan howled out as his eyes were burning with vigor. It seemed as though there were countless hands in the universe that extended from those vortices and were all trying to drag the Xuanwang world into it. Clang. At this moment, the core of the Xuanwang world jerked intensely. The chains that were coiled around it started swinging furiously as well. Outside, the skies were gradually changing color. The winds howled as the clouds rumbled, while lightning flashed all around. All sorts of phenomenon were happening as thick thunderbolts struck out across the void. They formed dragons of thunder that brought down shivers to one's heart, having one feel afraid from the bottom of their hearts. A series of strange-looking clouds started filling the entire world. They had a myriad of colors and took on many different forms. What's going on? When all of the powerful beings caught sight of the happenings within the world right now, their faces changed. It was evident that something big was about to happen. The spirit chi within the world was trembling as it turned even more berserk. This is a mutation of the world. Just who could it be who could possess such capabilities? Within Glory Sect, the masses looked around the world and were filled with bewilderment. They knew that this must be something that was caused by Lin Fan. Otherwise, who else in the Xuanwang world could possess power as such? And for any other mere commoners, this was undoubtedly the end of the world. There were screams, shrieks, and cries of fear, etc. Master, at this moment, it will all depend on me. The heavens will spoke up. What do you mean? Lin Fan's brows furrowed, asking in confusion. The world will grow older should it start bearing emotions. In the past millions of years, I have started developing a consciousness of my own. With that come feelings, and since you want to cultivate the Xuanwang world right now, you cannot do without a heaven's will. In order to ensure that the Xuanwang world can remain in its strongest form at any time, I must cast away everything I have. Heaven's wills return. Boom. Instantly, the heavens will turned into a long streak of light and bolted over, resting in its rightful place within the core. At this moment, Lin Fan discovered that his connection with the Xuanwang world was starting to get even tighter. In fact, he could even feel any single bit of disturbance within it. Fuse. Roaring out, Lin Fan's body started changing as a black hole appeared within his body. Instantly, the core began to shrink continuously as it started swiveling towards Lin Fan's body. At this moment, Lin Fan was residing within the Xuanwang world. However, at the point of cultivation, his body floated out and he suddenly found himself standing within a part of an infinitely huge universe. The entire space around him were strewn with stars. This is. Lin Fan checked out his surroundings and was stunned for a moment. All he saw was a gigantic spherical object that floated there gently. On the surface of this spherical object, there were countless light beams akin to long threads, extending out into the endless void. No one knew where they were connected to. Cultivate. Instantly, the spherical object began shrinking down until it entered Lin Fan's inner world entirely. Xing. Lin Fan's mind jerked as he entered a mysterious world. Chapter 799, Creator. Chapter 799, Creator. Within Lin Fan's inner world. Lin Fan realized that his inner world had changed somewhat. It looked like a galaxy right now, with two spherical balls revolving around it, maintaining a fixed distance and revolution speed. Each time they revolved once, Lin Fan could feel a surge of power gushing out and entering his body. After cultivating the Xuanwang world, he felt as though every single thing that happened within the Xuanwang world itself was embedded within his senses. At the same time, those countless of light beams that were planted on the Xuanwang world were connected to a multitude of other worlds. However, even if Lin Fan wanted to cross over to the other worlds, he did not have the capability to do so. It seemed as though these beams had been restricted by something that didn't allow him to pass through at all. Among these beams of lights, there was a single light that was cut cleanly apart by some sort of a mystical force, blocking its path forward entirely. Seems like this must be the path to the ancient saint world. Right now, Lin Fan was the Xuanwang world, and the Xuanwang world was something in Lin Fan's possession. At this point, any single action made by Lin Fan had an incredible amount of power associated with it. This was the power of the world. With the entire Xuanwang world boosting him on, Lin Fan's powers were pushed to yet another new peak. Ding! Congratulations on cultivating Xuanwang world. Ding! Congratulations on unlocking function of the thousands of worlds. Ding! Title of Creator activated. Title: Creator. This is the strongest title. Requires cultivation of a fixed number from amongst the thousands of worlds, 1/1000th. After cultivating the Xuanwang world, Lin Fan truly did not expect that he would somehow activate some unknown title all of a sudden. What in the world was up with this creator and all? This got Lin Fan extremely confused. However, by the looks of it, it did seem like it was pretty darn strong. But just as Lin Fan thought that it was all over, something even more shocking happened. Creator. Xuanwang world. 100 years in a single thought. requires 10 trillion Shengyang pills. Precious treasure descended from the heavens, requires 10 trillion Shengyang pills. When Lin Fan caught sight of everything, he was completely dumbstruck. For a moment or so, he truly could not snap back to his senses. At that moment, Lin Fan chuckled out. It was a bright and happy chuckle. He had finally understood. This was cheat mode on. And, if he wanted to activate a cheat, he would have to have Shengyang pills. Burning up 10 trillion Shengyang pills could allow him to cause 100 years to pass by within the Xuanwang world with just a single thought of his. And that precious treasure descended from the heavens and whatnot, wasn't that something that would just increase the amount of treasures within all the secret grounds in the Xuanwang world? Seemed like this title of creator truly lived up to its name. With a single move, he could allow the power of that world to grow and increase his own strength. It was just that this title of creator had yet to be activated fully. To do that would require 1,000 from amongst the thousands of worlds. In Lin Fan's opinion, this was way harder than hard. This wasn't anything simple to achieve at all. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. But to Lin Fan, this was also a form of hope. As long as he fulfilled the requirements, there wasn't anything he couldn't do. While 10 trillion Shengyang pills might seem like a scary number, as long as he could obtain the Shengyang pills, Xuanwang world could undergo a phenomenal change. And a change like that was definitely going to be unusually heaven-defying. With that, Lin Fan's heart bubbled with an infinite hope. This was especially the case for 100 years in a single thought. This was something that Lin Fan felt was the most important ever. Right now, the opening of the infinite worlds was imminent. For the masses of the Xuanwang world, what they lacked was precisely time. If he could give Xuanwang world 100 years, the extent to which the geniuses of the Xuanwang world would grow was something that even Lin Fan could not imagine. The system lives up to its name indeed. To think that it would open up the cheat mode to a certain extent. Honestly, this is just unlawful. Lin Fan chuckled out in his heart. This feeling was simply way too great. Xuanwang world. Seeing all of these phenomenal changes in the world, the masses were filled with an immense fear. Just as everyone thought that doomsday was upon them, they realized that the skies had started clearing. Those initially sinister grim skies started turning bright once more. All of the weird phenomena disappeared entirely. For any normal being of the human race, this feeling was as though they were just given a new lease of life. It allowed them to see a renewed hope towards the future. Master, you have already cultivated the Xuanwang world. From now on, with a single thought of yours, everything inside the Xuanwang world shall be within your control. The heavens will, who had now discarded all 7 emotions and 6 worldly desires, floated gently before Lin Fan. Right now, the heavens will had discarded all emotions and was truly without a single trace of the 7 emotions and 6 worldly desires. There were no feelings or sadness in it. From here on forth, it would only serve as the foundation for Lin Fan's will. And if one day, Lin Fan were to order for the heavens will to destroy the entire world, it would obey unconditionally, without any hesitation. There is a seal that exists within the Xuanwang world. Only, I do not know who it was who could have set up this seal. The power held by it is unimaginable. Lin Fan was in slight disbelief right now. Given his current cultivation state, any seal should come before him as a piece of paper tiger. But, who would have thought that the seal of the Xuanwang world would leave Lin Fan helpless against it? In fact, he could even receive an immense countereffect by trying to forcefully remove it. If not for the fact that his physical body state was so strong, he might have even been killed by that power. Lin Fan was starting to feel that this world getting more and more mysterious. With just this seal alone, Lin Fan could tell that the Xuanwang world was one of the strongest existences ever. Even if it were the heavens will of the ancient saint world, it was nowhere as mysterious as this seal. And based on the current situation, if he wanted to remove this seal, he should most likely be at least a divine celestial level 10, eternal God state being. Given Lin Fan's current strength, as long as it wasn't a powerful being who had attained an eternal God seat, Lin Fan could FCK any divine celestial level 10 cultivation state being over and over. But, to think that this seal would cause him to get stuck here. This was something that had Lin Fan's nuts hurting over it. The seal at the core was something that I had once tried destroying as well. However, it all ended in failure. But, I've slowly discovered that this seal isn't all that bad of a thing either. It seems as though it's resisting some incredible existence. The heavens will had gained control over the Xuanwang world for a long time now. As such, it had naturally attempted to release the core from the seal before. He was extremely clear about the changes in it. However, the power of this seal was something that had far exceeded his expectations. Furthermore, given the heaven's will's current strength, there's absolutely no way it could release the seal at all. Forget it. Since that's the case, we'll let it continue as such then. Lin Fan was magnanimous. This didn't bother him at all. Once his strength was increased to a certain extent, all of these doubts would be cleared up. Seems like that is the only way then. Your paradise is extremely strong, Master. If we can fuse it together, the Xuanwang world will grow even stronger. The heavens could sense that the paradise within Lin Fan's inner world possessed a boundless amount of power. Yes, it'd naturally be good if we can fuse them together. While incomparable to the Xuanwang world, Lin Fan's paradise could be considered as a world of its own. There were countless living beings that were all born from that utmost treasure of the paradise. And, if he wanted to breed all of the living beings from that utmost treasure of the paradise, the amount of Shenyang pills he required would be astronomical. Lin Fan was extremely poor right now. He only had 500 billion Shenyang pills left. If he could have enough Shenyang pills, Lin Fan's powers could reach an extremely terrifying state. However, stuff like this was something Lin Fan did not put to heart at all. Wasn't it just Shenyang pills? As long as he could kill enough utmost beings of the ancient race, he could obtain more Shenyang pills. Furthermore, the fusion of the Xuanwang world and his paradise might cause an automatic change, allowing the utmost treasure of his paradise to start manifesting more living beings. For Lin Fan, that was of imperative importance. However, all of that would require time. Chapter 800. Shocking Change. Chapter 800. Shocking Change. Ancient Saint World. Spires of the 8 utmost beings of the ancient race stood in an abyss. Even with the loss of utmost beings, the power of the seal there was still existent. Ha, no, vel, b, in c, ohm. At this moment, a loud laughter broke out from that infinitely deep abyss in the middle. Unexpected indeed, to think that 2 of the utmost beings of the ancient race would fall. What other capabilities do you ancient race beings have to still imprison your empress here? It had been a long time since the Fire-Water Empress had been imprisoned in this place. The moment the power of the seal dipped a little, she could feel that her chance had arrived. That massive amount of power from her burst forth and slammed out against the seal relentlessly, trying to break it down entirely. The brows of the 5 utmost beings of the ancient race furrowed. Fire-Water Empress, you had better just stay here obediently. The ancient saint world isn't a place you can act all brazenly. For the utmost beings of the ancient race, the Fire-Water Empress was an existence that gave them an endless headache. For the past millions of years, the Fire-Water Empress had been reincarnating endlessly. Each time she reincarnated, it would shake up the entire world. Her past few incarnations were still manageable. The 8 utmost beings of the ancient race would just come forth together and kill her. However, following her endless reincarnations, her powers also grew stronger. This power of hers gave them a thumping headache. This was especially the case for this present incarnation of hers. The cultivation of the Fire-Water Empress had managed to reach a mystifying state that could threaten the status of the utmost beings of the ancient race directly. Eventually in that final battle, all of the 8 utmost beings were forced back by her. They had no other choice but to depend on the powers of the heavens to trap her within this infinite abyss for all eternity, so that she had no chance of coming back at all. Just you guys, and you think that you can hold down your empress here? That's but a fool's dream. The Fire-Water Empress hollered out as a tremendous power erupted forth from that infinite abyss. Boom! The seal trembled momentarily as a bright glare shone out in all directions. The intents of fire and water began to fuse with one another, causing the entire world to shake. The seal started shivering uncontrollably, as though it could no longer withstand this power. When the 5 utmost beings of the ancient race caught sight of this, their faces changed as they roared out, pushing back on the seal with all their might. They had to repress the Fire-Water Empress in this abyss for all eternity. The utmost beings knew that it would be a complete disaster for the ancient race should the Fire-Water Empress break out of the seal. Now that they had lost 2 great utmost beings, the power of the ancient race had dropped by a certain degree. If the Fire-Water Empress were to descend upon the world once more, it would be an immense pressure for them. Haha, with just you guys, that's far from enough. Within that infinitely deep abyss, the Fire-Water Empress gave off a superior disposition as she tossed her robes, sending out an intent of fire and water that unfurled over. This intent of fire and water transformed endlessly before manifesting into a dragon that roared out menacingly and slammed against the seal. True essences of fire and water. Eternal across all ancient times. The aura of the Fire-Water Empress started turning more mysterious. The power that was bursting forth from her had far exceeded what she was capable of. While being sealed here for countless of years, the Fire-Water Empress spent the time having a complete review of her martial arts. This was especially the case after she did something like that with Lin Fan. She was now clearer than ever about the secrets behind the fusion of fire and water. Initially, fire and water were never meant to coexist. However, after the Fire-Water Empress engaged in that activity with Lin Fan, she had realized that those true essences of fire and water that she had thought to be impossible to fuse were actually showing signs of fusing. For the Fire-Water Empress, this was something absolutely inconceivable. If they were truly able to fuse, then her powers would definitely reach a new terrifying state. How could this be, Fire-Water Empress? How could your true essences of fire and water show signs of fusing? You have attempted it endlessly over countless reincarnations. Yet, you've never ever succeeded. How could you possibly do it during this round of reincarnation? When the 5 utmost beings of the ancient race caught sight of this, they got frantic. They knew what the outcome of the fusion of the true essences of fire and water would be. She would be matchless. There would be no one in the entire world who could go against the Fire-Water Empress any longer. A bunch of ignorant fools. The encounters of your emperor here aren't something that you guys can understand. The pleasures between men and women are something that go with the natural order of the world. It isn't something beasts like you ancient race beings can ever hope to understand. You must be dreaming if you think that you can continue to seal your emperor here. Fools, get destroyed, the Fire-Water Empress hollered. Damn it, we must absolutely not let her out. The utmost beings yelled out as they used all of their powers to try and contain the seal of the Fire-Water Empress. However, this seal required the powers of 8 utmost beings. Now that 2 of them were gone, this was a huge drop in their powers as well. Haha, you will never be able to stop me. The Fire-Water Empress burst out laughing wildly. However, at this moment, something that shocked the Fire-Water Empress happened. A boundless amount of power descended down from the skies. The void was torn apart by a mysterious gigantic arm that covered the entire sky as it descended down. Fire-Water Empress, the ancient race is not for you to violate. You shall remain in this place for all eternity. The booming voice was extremely tyrannical, rendering one helpless against it. The moment the Fire-Water Empress, who was in that infinitely deep abyss, heard this voice, her face changed. That boundless power that pummeled down seemed even more devastating than ever, as though it wanted to push down the Fire-Water Empress, who had broken out of the seal forcefully. Heaven's will, how could this be? How could you possibly be awakened so quickly? The peerlessly beautiful face of the Fire-Water Empress revealed a look of shock, evidently unable to come to terms with the truth right now. Fire-Water Empress, stay in this place for all eternity. Boom, that heaven-encompassing palm caused the seal, that was about to break open, gleam with a shining glow once more. Your Empress will definitely get out of here. Definitely. Heaven's will. The last remaining 5 utmost beings of the ancient race greeted him politely. The infinite worlds are about to open up. You guys have to suppress the infinite worlds out there. The voice of the Heaven's will was extremely vicissitudinous. Yet, it brought with it an endless amount of authority. Heaven's will, we are lacking 2 amongst the 8 utmost beings right now. Could you create 2 more utmost beings? No, the eternal God seat is in the hands of that human. There will be no utmost being because of that. No matter what, you guys have to kill off that human. Most of them did not know much about the human clearly. However, Fault was extremely familiar with that human. That battle was fresh as yesterday in his mind. If not for that human, the ancient race wouldn't have lost 2 utmost beings just like that. With the Xuanwang world cultivated under him, Lin Fan had completed this final task. Right now, everything about the Xuanwang world would progress according to his will. The Xuanwang world was the home of the human race. There were countless of geniuses within. Initially, with the heavenly barrier, none of these humans could progress any further. But now that Lin Fan had cultivated it, he was naturally ready to open up the barrier of the Xuanwang world, allowing it to communicate with the ancient saint world. From now on forth, the greater celestial full cultivation state would no longer be the final endpoint of the Xuanwang world. Everyone would be able to progress further. Even if it were the divine celestial cultivation state, that would no longer be a dream. Given the potential of the human race, Lin Fan believed that there would definitely be peerless geniuses that would be produced. With that, he would have more confidence in going against the ancient race. A few days later, Lin Fan floated gently above the void of the Xuanwang world. By now, everything had been prepared. Naturally, Lin Fan was going to break through the barrier of the Xuanwang world, allowing it to link up with the ancient saint world entirely. It's time for our fates to be changed. Everyone, prepare yourselves. Lin Fan looked up into those boundless skies as his body started gushing out with power akin to tidal waves, surging ferociously. Herg! Lin Fan slammed out with a punch, shaking the entire world. Break! This punch was absolutely devastating. Everything it passed by was destroyed instantly. It broke through the cages of this world, opening it up to a brand new one. Let us begin. A new era shall rise. Lin Fan yelled out. The entire Xuanwang world was bathed in a bright beam of light. The heaven and earth trembled while the void began to crack apart, extinguishing an endless amount of spirit chi. And somewhere within the secret grounds, an incredible, endless breach opened up, causing an endless amount of saint spirit chi to gush down, encompassing the entire Xuanwang world. At every single corner of the Xuanwang world, countless of hidden powerful beings had suddenly realized that the world had changed entirely. For all of these powerful beings, a change as such was something they could have never imagined. And a change even more terrifying for everyone else happened all of a sudden.